On top of that, the coolest gear around is out. Outlaw Radio merch, available right now with some cool stuff and cool stuff coming. Check us out, outlawradionetwork.com. Are you an outlaw yet? Visit outlawradionetwork.com and find out.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network.
Drums on my guitar.
Yesterday, my life was headed in one direction. Today, it is headed in another. You ever think the universe was against you? Fear, belief, love, phenomena that determine the course of our lives. These forces begin long before we are born and continue after we perish.
Our lives are not our own. We are bound to others, past and present. And by each crime and every kindness, we birth our future.
I won't let you go again.
I believe there is another world waiting for us, a better world. And I'll be waiting for you there.
You're listening to the Outlaw Network. Outlaw Radio Network.
Did you ever feel that the world or the universe works against you? That was such a deliberate choice of introductions for the Wednesday night show. For those that haven't seen it, those clips of Tom Hanks come directly from a movie. Oh my gosh, now the name of it's Cloud Atlas. His name of it. It's very, very deep, introspective about how one decision from each lifetime affects the next and the next and so on and so forth, right? So how decisions of what are seemingly meaningless points have monumental ripple effects through history, kind of an idea, right?
Yeah.
And
butterfly effect.
I'm thinking dragonfly. Yeah, butterfly effect.
Yeah.
And why do I say that? I say that because do you feel that the universe works against you? Well, yeah, if you're a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant man in today's world. Tom, are you okay? You look like you just swallowed a lot of water there, partner.
I was about to shoot water out my nose.
I find it fascinating.
Those aren't the shots you want.
Here we live in a world. We've got people running for office, and it's not politics as usual in this country, but let's be honest, it's not that far out of the norm. It's just varying degrees of crappiness to each other.
What has ever been normal politics in America?
Yeah, Reagan Mondale, I think, was the last time we... No, I'm kidding.
I wouldn't even... Yeah, well, I mean, it seemed like it was more civil then, but...
It's been generally civil. I mean, when did it start getting not civil? I would think Bush and Gore. What do you think?
But do we really think it was civil or it was suppressed?
Well, ask the hanging Chads. I don't. I mean, it went all the way to the Supreme Court, right? But I still think it was civil.
Yes.
Do you?
Yeah, yes. I think it was civil.
Do you think it was civil?
Yeah, but do you?
I do.
Let's go down that path. What if Gore had been found or won or
Had
whatever.
won for sure.
What do you
sure.
think this country would look like now?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that I could even speculate because we've gone
Oh, I
so
can.
far off of those rails. I don't. What do you think, Tom?
Oh, I think it would be all rainbows and unicorns and sunshine because Al Gore invented the internet. He wouldn't have let it get out of hand.
Lori, can you look for edibles over there? Rainbows and unicorns. Oh my goodness gracious! But
But he invented the internet. He wouldn't have let it get out of hand.
I get you. But we've got local people running for office telling you, I'm giving you instructions on how to vote for gay people, right? You don't need a unicorn pen with sprinkles all over, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how far we've come from, I think there was some hanging chad on that one,
Yeah.
Like that's like, what? That's how far we've come.
I blame the combination of social media
Fair.
and COVID. Because we all got locked up.
What do you think COVID had to play in it?
So
Or
because
let me rephrase that question. What part, if any, do you believe that COVID played in the lack of civility in our politics today?
we had to quit being social, right? We had to quit meeting face to face because Big Brother said so.
Yes.
And so everyone kind of crawled into their shells. They crawled into their homes. They crawled into their caves. However you want to put it.
And how has that
And-
affected us today?
Well, I mean, we have social media to stay in touch, right?
Right.
But you're not held to any account for the things you say on social media because you can't get slapped.
You mean if you call somebody a racial epitaph, you're not going to get punched in the face online?
right? If you say something stupid, you're not immediately
So
slapped
lack of
for it.
accountability?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's our problem.
Lack of instant accountability.
Right.
Okay, that's a great point.
Because
Instant
if-
credibility.
Yeah, because if you went into a bar or, any
A lot
other
of good
place,
jokes start that way.
Right. But if you went into a bar and said the stuff that a lot of these keyboard warriors are doing
Mm-hmm.
to someone's face, you would get instant.
I'm there with you. Yeah.
Accountability.
You would need dental work.
Instant
Oh,
karma.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or-
dentists would be busy.
Yes, they would.
if people were in person the way they are online.
Do you not think that we've drawn ourselves back a little bit from that? By the way, thank you, Outlaw Radio Network. We appreciate you listening tonight. I'm just going to ignore everybody else in the studio as I remember that I totally forgot to say who the hell you tuned in to listen to. So,
Hey, we just jumped right in the saddle.
Welcome.
we did. I totally did not expect it to go that far down that road, but it did.
Yeah.
But it did.
That's
so,
okay.
well, Lori, Tom, Dennis, Paul, and again, we appreciate you guys listening. Please enter the chat room. Throw your 2 cents worth in. It will be worth nothing otherwise. Let that sink in.
But be civil about it. We were just talking about that.
We were, and I'll get to the gist of this here, where we're going with this here in just a minute. But I think this is all incredibly relevant right now, and so I'm curious. Do you feel that we have come back from what COVID has done? Have we returned to what we would have considered normal before that?
Absolutely
Or are we
not.
still dealing with the
No.
ramifications?
Still
Absolutely
dealing.
not.
You think so? You think we're
Oh, yeah.
still dealing with it? Explain to me why you feel like we're dealing with it still. Don't you think that people kind of
Ladies
reeled their
first.
asses back in and they're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't say that so much, Did they already said it before, though, right?
Yeah.
Before COVID, people were really obnoxious.
People were crappy.
Yeah, people were crappy, but it wasn't a group think.
Yeah.
So
I-
that's the thing I've noticed the most.
The one thing I will say that I think I agree with you guys on this about is because I think that, like, at least people that I know and that I'm with, we're all about Christian values, Judeo-Christian values, and this whole forgive. You want to forgive people, but there's this notion of an inability to forgive yet not forget, right? That half of our neighbors thought half of the world was dying because of us, right? Pointing a finger at us saying, if you don't do this, your grandparents will die, right? Or the comments from the former president like, this disease is spreading because of people like you, right? Those are things that they strike a nerve, and you can't Band-Aid over that
Nope.
because you can't unhear it.
No, you have to talk it out. I mean, literally, that was a conversation for months in my
Yes.
household.
What?
It was.
Yeah.
In your household.
In my
Did you have how did the breakdown in your household go along those lines? Did you have children in your house that were like, oh, it's people's fault who aren't getting the vaccine, or were they?
No. Just within our own pod, I'll call it. My adult children were concerned.
Yeah. Concerned. How were they concerned? You have a smile on your face, so clearly you have
some of us did not, and some of us did.
Okay.
And those of us who did not were privy to information from Governor Glory Hole on an
email chain sent to a particular nonprofit organization?
Well, I did have an email chain, but I also was in a meeting where he was on a call in the meeting. And so, just being the numbers person and looking at the financial incentives.
Right, which were outstandingly large.
Yes. And so seeing all of that and knowing that what everybody thinks is patient zero on the plane, and they were in Everett, was not patient zero.
Correct.
So, yeah.
They couldn't have been. It had to have been here considerably. And I don't think I'd even told this story, but, I had one subcontractor working for me in November, right? So it was officially here in February, technically, with our first case. I didn't hear about it until midway through December. And I had a guy that I had given a chance to. He was a former alcoholic, basically. He had a houseboat and a pickup truck, and he was working as a handyman. And so I was subbing some work out to him. And I thought maybe he had fallen hard off the wagon because I'd given him a kitchen remodel to do. And by about the second week in December, he just disappeared.
Yeah.
Couldn't find him. So, and he 3 weeks later, after I had already gone and finished the job and not being able to get a hold of the guy, I thought he'd gone back on drugs or drunk or whatever, just disappeared on me. All of his tools were still there. And I'm like, this is really weird, right? 3 weeks later, he finally gets a hold of me and he's like, dude, I'm sorry, I've been so sick. I'm like, oh, I fired you 2 weeks ago. I'm like, you're not going to tell me, dude, that you were sick for 3 weeks and couldn't pick up the phone. He's like, no, I'm serious, man. I could. Well, 2.5 weeks after that, I find out about COVID, right towards the new year.
Right.
I felt like an ass.
Yeah, I
From this area?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know that he had it. I just suspect that he may have.
I knew a couple people that were that sick in December.
And there's a listener to this show, hi Ed, whose mother died. I believe it was in November of an unexplained respiratory issue. She died, and she lived right here in Port Orchard. They were never able to explain it. He went to her house, found her deceased.
I have an extended family member who survived, but November they were hospitalized.
Yeah,
younger than me.
I mean,
we both think it was.
Yeah,
it was that.
I don't think now that there should be any doubt that it was clearly circulating well before we knew.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it just makes sense. But anyway, I got off the topic a little bit. But the reason I bring this stuff up is because for those that didn't get a chance to hear what had gone on when former President Trump went to the National Association of African American Journalists and gave a little. Basically, they invited him, and it was scandalous for them, right? Like their leadership, one of the leaders actually resigned.
Yeah, I heard about
because
that.
he was so pissed off that they were giving Trump a platform. And I found it very interesting, the dialogue that took place at the beginning of this event. Have you guys had a chance to hear about this?
No, I haven't.
No,
because I thought it was happening later this week. I didn't.
Yeah,
realize.
no. It definitely happened.
I heard about one of the leaders who resigned and said that they could not participate as a journalist. I didn't realize it had already happened.
It definitely did. So I'm gonna see here if I can just play this little clip off of my phone so that it can be heard because I couldn't share it. Oh nope. You know what? I'm just gonna read it because I don't want this to go south. And there's a bunch of little clips on here from it. Okay. So. Former President Donald Trump participated in the National Association of Black Journalists convention on Wednesday afternoon. The interview with a panel of reporters, like this line, started on a bad note, with one moderator immediately accusing Trump of racist acts. He goes, well, quote, you have used, this is the reporter talking to Donald Trump, you have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they are asking are, and I quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that? First of all, I thought that question right off the bat could use some discussion. Because that question came out of the reporter's mouth before saying hello. Like literally, there wasn't a hello, let me introduce you to Donald Trump. And because of that reporter, they started 35 minutes late. So if I'm the former president of the United States and I'm asked to come to this event that's already controversial, you keep me waiting for 35 minutes, you don't even begin with an introduction, you start off with a question like that, I'm going to say I'm probably put off.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let me go back. I think this is important.
So journalists didn't even say hello.
Correct.
No context. Just
Correct.
Framing the question. And I hope everybody really hears this. A lot of the questions that are posed on both sides of
On both
the
sides,
aisle
yep, for sure.
are framed as a gotcha, and they're not with context. So the basis of the question is assumed that everything the journalist is saying is fact.
That's right.
And it's not.
So, and that kind of stuff, that kind of behavior, I think we've been seeing that more now post-COVID, right? So when we back to what we were talking about before we got off on our tangent, post-COVID, that kind of behavior has become the norm. And so you would never maybe say that one-on-one in the grocery store or something because you might get punched in the mouth. But if you're a journalist and there's cameras and there's media and it's being recorded for
and
whatever,
this was a meeting with all media people, right?
Right. So
but they were segregated by race. Let's keep this in mind as we go on with this conversation. This was a group, a self-defined group of African American journalists.
I wouldn't even think that part's important.
You don't?
I don't.
Why? You don't think African Americans have the right to distinguish themselves differently by the amount of melanin in their skin?
If they want to, but I don't think it's important.
I'm not saying anything else. I'm just you don't think it's important?
No.
Well, I think it was an industry group. And
Sure,
that's how they define their industry.
Cool. I'm not against I'm not against people assembling for whatever reason they want to assemble for.
Yeah.
You assemble because you like yo-yos. You assemble because you're journalists all of the same, same race or same spin. Or I don't care. I don't care why people assemble. Don't be jerks. But that kind of behavior, we didn't see a lot of that before COVID or before the lockdowns. So I do think those lockdowns they changed our social behavior. And not, for the better.
I don't disagree with you, but I will say that CNN had a reporter in general who I think really kind of started the behavior during Trump's presidency. I forget his name off the top of my head, but now he's got his own show on CNN on the weekends.
Yeah, gray salt and pepper hair.
Yeah. Well, he would, and what started it for me, and I think Peter Ducey from Fox News has taken over the mantle from doing it a lot. And it just, I just want to grab him by the earlobe and say, dude, shut the fuck up.
Who?
Like, stop,
Ducey?
Peter Ducey.
Oh.
Yeah, like, I don't dislike
but-
him. I just hate that style of questioning. You're not doing the country or anybody else any favors. And it started with this guy on CNN. And I remember Trump had just walked out of a meeting with Kim Jong-un from North Korea. And the dude yells out over the top of everybody, "Mr. President, are you a racist?" Like, is there a counter sniper team? I'm looking around like, somebody take that dumbass out.
Yeah,
it's just so pointless and ridiculous.
It's a stupid. Again, it goes back to that lack of
decorum,
lack of social graces.
Thank you, Corey. Jim Acosta. Sorry.
Thank you. Yes, that's it. Jim Acosta.
It. Yeah.
See, I didn't even have to fully describe the guy, and clearly they knew who I was talking about. So like, look, that stuff does nothing but give reporters attempting to make a name for themselves a way to play stupid gotcha stuff. It's the one thing I dislike about the guy on KVI here locally. He does a lot of the same stuff. I don't remember his name either, but he does some segments on
Jason?
Fox. Yeah, Jason
Rants?
Rants. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. I don't dislike the guy. I find him going down that road himself.
I think he's a little schmarmy sometimes.
It is. I agree with you, and I don't think that does our community. And it doesn't do. Now, we're not journalists. Please don't ever mistake us as such. We are commentators. We take the data and the information that's in front of us, and we talk about it. Huge difference. Like I have respect for journalists. I think that they're just an endangered species, and there's becoming fewer and fewer of them.
They're gone. They're extinct.
So I will tell you that I think that there are still a few. I believe that Brett Baer on Fox News is a very good one. There are a couple with NBC that are still very good at it. There are a couple of individuals, one for CBS. I would have to look up Catherine Herridge, really good at what she does. But anyway, the point is that we've gotten away. You can make more money if you're a partisan reporter now, I think, than if you are straight up trying to be neutral. News Nation is trying to go that way. They're trying. Chris Cuomo has been doing a moderately good job. He's doing better now at News Nation than he was at CNN. Because I think he's able to be more himself. He's not being directed in what to discuss or talk about. And Dan Abrams is really adamant. That's his entire business model with News Nation, is we want to run a news organization that is, we have commentators, but we are neutral as far as the network goes. And good for them. I actually watch them more than any other network nowadays. But I digress. So the reason I think that this is interesting, because I don't really like or have any respect for any organization that has to use a race in the title at all, full stop. I don't like the idea. I mean, if you, and always reverse it, right? Well, how would anybody out there feel if it was, white reporters of America having a group? First thing you'd say is, why do white people have to have a group? That's racist. That is exactly,
ask if there's white sheets involved.
Yes, that is exactly what people would be saying, is it not?
Yeah.
Right? So
I would.
so if I am to live my life by this mantra that it is the character of the individual and not the color of their skin,
Right.
why doesn't everybody have to live by that? What and this gets to where we're going and Trump's response, which we haven't even got to yet, which is ultimately my issue here and what I wanted to talk about, and then we'll get into the other topics that we had discussed later, but this one is too good to pass up.
Okay.
And it
We're
was
ready.
And it was as if Donald Trump, Kamala Harris and these reporters,
walked into a bar
and put that ball right on a tee and said hit it, So
Can I say one more
please,
thing?
yeah, of course.
Corey Collins has been pointing out that no black males were involved in the questioning today.
I will take his word for it because that's not something that I read or looked up. So if he's correct about that, that adds a whole nother dimension to it, right?
Right.
So, and one of the reasons why I didn't want to also play the audio file was because it's too easy to get lost in the audio.
Right.
When I'm reading the quotes and citing it properly, we're taking the emotion out of the conversation.
Right.
Because then Donald Trump responded. And here was his response. Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. The first question, you don't even say hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network. They're a terrible network. The former president's response elicited a boisterous reaction from the audience. I think it's disgraceful that I come here in good spirit. At another point in the interview, Trump stopped Scott, that was the reporter's name, from interrupting him during a response. He says, quote, "We have you for a limited time, sir. I'd love to move on to different topics if we can," she insisted. That's the reporter. Like, well, let's go into something else, right? Trump's response, no, excuse me. You're the one that held me up for 35 minutes. Just so you understand. Now, that in and of itself would have been like enough for that crowd, right? For him to have lost that crowd.
Right.
Right?
Oh, I mean, he should have. I mean, going toe to toe like that in public doesn't help anything.
Who are you talking about, the reporter or Trump?
Yes.
Which one? Both?
Yes.
Oh, I think it's good that he's standing up, but he's being. I haven't heard the audio, but in the language context, he's being respectful. His tone is good, and he needs to do this kind of stuff because who's he going up against?
Well, so yes,
black
he
female.
needs to
He's
stand
got-
up for
yeah.
himself. He
Yeah.
does, but again, I still think time and place.
Yeah, wait till we get to the rest of this. So, and we're already having this deep conversation, and we haven't got into what set the world on fire with regards to this conversation.
We're burning?
Oh, well, yes.
But we have been.
Much like a supernova 3,000 years ago, we're finally getting to see Outlaw Radio Network. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back as we head to Facebook.
DJ T, that's some funky.
Play that funky music, white boy.
Welcome back, Outlaw Radio Network on Facebook.
.com.
Let's swear.
I had to do it. Fargan A. All right. I don't want to get into the rest
No,
of this until we
that's
get
fine.
back onto AM. But I will. I was telling you guys this story, man, and I was like, I walked into this gas station, and I don't even know. There's this little clips on your when you're putting gas in, and you pull the trigger up, right?
Yep.
And you can kind of flick it down so it holds the trigger in place, so you don't have to sit there holding it while you're.
What gas station were you at?
Allen.
Oh,
There's
okay.
only one gas station there in
Never
Allen.
mind.
Yeah,
Won't bother me.
it's a little podunk, third
Yeah.
world country store kind of thing.
Yep.
But it was on my way to the job site, so
Yeah.
I stopped there to get gas. And I just had this little I was going to pressure wash, and I had this 1 gallon, container for my gas, which was all I needed, right? I didn't need a lot. Well, I'm filling up my 1 gallon container. 1 gallon fills up fast, and I go to pull it out, and gas goes everywhere. I let go of everything. Nope, gas still flowing out of this thing all over me. I mean, from the waist down, I was soaked in gasoline all over the ground. And it dawned on me after just 2 to 3 seconds. It seemed like forever as gas was pouring out.
Right.
I'm seeing myself, envisioning myself becoming a blinding ball of fire.
I
And
bet.
it dawns
30
on me
seconds.
that thing didn't pop out. It was still stuck in there.
And you were squeezing the handle.
Yeah, and it was still there, and it wasn't
Got
moving. So I had to stick my fingernail up in there and pry it out, and it finally came out. So I went into the gas station, dripping with this stuff. I had to have smelled incredibly horribly, right? And I'm telling the guy, I'm
10
like,
seconds.
hey, dude, your thing is broken. He's like, I'll get to it. I ever lost my fucking mind, man. I will tell you.
bet.
Oh.
This is Spike Cohen,
This is Jesse Young.
I'm Brandy Cruz, host of the Undivided Podcast.
and you're listening to
You're listening to my friends on the
Outlaw
The
Outlaw Radio Network.
I don't want to say anything. It's an awesome opening.
Right?
That's the latest one.
Hey,
that
shut
I'm
up, dude.
working
Let
on.
it play. Let it play. Okay,
Right.
that was awesome, dude. I loved it, Dennis. Nice job. Major kudos, brother. Major kudos.
Nice.
Okay, so back to Donald Trump and his words that destroyed the world.
Yeah.
And I quote, "Look, if I come onto a stage like this and I got treated so rudely as this woman treated me," he goes, "that was just nasty. It was very rude. It wasn't even a question. She didn't ask me a question. She gave me a statement."
Oh, sounds like.
I mean, in a way, I mean, she kind of made a statement more than
Yeah.
anything else when you think
Yeah.
about it. So I guess maybe he kind of had a point there with that. So Scott asked Trump whether he thinks Vice President Kamala Harris was a DEI hire. Keep in mind where he's at.
Oof.
Oh boy.
Now clearly somebody had already piled the kindling up underneath the stage, and they were just looking for an excuse to light it. Kind of like I was at the gas station this afternoon.
Right.
Yep. Here
Right?
we go.
Now, let me ask you this, and I want to have some fun with this for a second. Dennis, did you hear this? Did you hear what this question that was posed to Donald Trump was?
No.
He was asked by an African-American reporter working for ABC at the African-American Journalist Association today if he thought Kamala Harris was a DEI hire. Now, we know how you feel about DEI, Dennis. Okay? So here's what I want to ask you three. What do you think Donald Trump's response was? We'll start with Lori. She has the biggest grin on her face.
I really, it could go so many
Yes,
sideways.
it could, but it only went one way. It only went one way.
I think he talked around it and pointed to her record.
Oh, very good answer.
Instead of
Trump's not that smart. Okay.
Said I wouldn't give him that kind of brain power credit either.
Dennis, how do you
was
think Donald
hoping,
Trump responded when asked that
since
question?
his Secret Service has already failed.
Yeah.
But he does tend to, when things are touchy, he tends to respond with interesting.
Yes, he did
And work
respond.
his way
With,
around.
look at that.
So he steps in it.
Dennis is the closest one to being correct so far.
Okay.
Okay, Tom. How do you think Donald Trump responded when asked if Kamala Harris was a DEI hire?
I have no idea. My guess would be he stuck his foot in his mouth and went, "That's an interesting question." Yes.
Do you remember Rocky when he went to go fight Apollo Creed at the end of Rocky 2 and Apollo, they're getting ready to box for fun, and Apollo Creed goes, ding, ding, right? And that was kind of the end
That
of the
was
movie.
actually 3.
Oh, you got
Okay.
schooled.
Tthank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
After
I don't
Apollo Creed
remember.
helped train him
Yes.
to beat Mr. T.
Yes, that's
You know
right.
what? I'm just glad that you guys watched it. Okay.
Yeah, we're already one up on
Kevin.
Kevin. By the way, folks, quick side note: if you get a chance to go see Wolverine and Deadpool,
Do it.
you will not be disappointed.
Okay, I've heard it's amazing. I have
Okay.
not
And
had
it's
a
got
chance
so
yet.
many incredible,
I'll
right?
have
The
to
whole
go.
Marvel universe and crossovers, multiverse thing.
Yeah.
I will tell you, there's probably 30 cameos in there that are just absolutely
Really?
to die for.
right.
And three of them in particular, were off the charts amazing.
You
And
know, we need to plan better and have like a outlaw night at the movies.
Night at the movies. Well, it'd be
That'd
worth
be
it to
fun.
kidnap Kevin and take him to actually see a movie in the
Right?
theater. So
and you guys could be accomplices and join us.
there we go. So I will tell you first one, and I'm just going to give you these
Okay.
three because they're cameos, right?
Yeah.
So for those that remember the '90s, the X-Men movies,
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gambit,
What?
played by Channing Tatum. Yes.
Wait.
Yes. Most people wouldn't even remember that he was Gambit.
No, I didn't
yeah.
remember
Yeah,
that.
no,
Because the part was really small.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one was Elektra, played by
Jennifer
Gardner.
Yeah.
Yep. And
I remember that.
And somebody brought up, this is really funny. Somebody brought up, "Oh, what happened to your partner?" She's like, "Oh, Daredevil? Yeah, he's dead to me." And that was true. Actually, she didn't really say that. She said something, but I don't remember what it was. I think they talked about him being dead or something. But the third one, and the most surprising, I think, was the coolest. Blade,
Oh,
played
yeah.
by Wesley Snipes.
I was
Oh, wow.
gonna say, is that Wesley?
Yes, Wesley
Wow,
Snipes
I
reprised
haven't
his
heard
role
from
as
Wesley Snipes in
yeah.
a while.
Well, he
what
had to
has
do
he
that
done?
time for not paying taxes, right?
Yeah.
And then he came back and he's done a couple
Oh
of
wait,
movies
he
with.
went to jail for that?
Oh yes. Well, we call it prison, but I'm sure for him it was probably not so bad.
It was probably club fed.
Oh,
Right.
I thought that they just
Oh, no.
confiscated everything.
Oh,
So
no, he had,
he
uh,
actually spent time.
he-
Okay,
So let's get back to Trump's answer.
got it.
Hang
so
on.
we're going
becau-
from time to.
But
Trump?
but there was a comment in the chat.
Okay.
You know, before we get
Yeah.
the answer
Great.
about the
Go
DEI
ahead,
thing.
go ahead, read the comment.
The comment just kind of makes me laugh a little bit because the comment is first we need more DEI. Now it's you calling me DEI?
Yeah. Look,
Pick a lane.
it's
Pick
an
a
it's an
lane.
amazing quandary that Democrats have placed themselves in
Yeah,
right
just
now.
pick a
right?
lane, please.
Like we have to have diversity, equity, and inclusion. Everybody and everything needs DEI.
Okay.
What you talking about, Willis? Right? Like you can't call me a DEI hire,
Pick a lane.
right?
It's
And
good
let's-
or it's bad.
And let's not forget that President Biden is the person who said he would hire a
Woman.
woman to be his vice presidential running mate.
Well, and also,
and then he
also
also
say
said
she-
he would hire an African American
Yeah.
woman to be on
For
the
the
Supreme
Supreme
Court.
Court, yep.
Right?
But didn't he also say for VP it would be a woman and a
I don't
person
remember
of
if he.
color?
I don't remember if he said that.
I
I don't.
thought he did.
I
I
know
could
it
be
was
wrong.
woman, but I
Yeah.
don't remember if there's
Yeah.
anything about
Okay.
color or anything else.
Yeah.
And here's the killer thing, right? It's kind of like Michelle Calderon or how do you vote for a gay guy thing, right? Nobody cares.
That video was
if-
so awkward.
It-
Sorry.
It
That's
was.
all I'm
No,
going to say
you're right.
about
It was one of the most cringeworthy videos I
It
think I've ever
was.
seen a political candidate make because none of your constituents care about a person being gay, dear. None of them.
Well,
right?
And I guess for context, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I was out of it for a bit
Yeah.
because of surgery and stuff. So did that actually come up? Like, did that come up at a forum?
No, she posted it on Facebook.
No, I saw that because you shared it. But
Yeah.
I mean, were people really asking about that?
She claims they were. I don't think anybody was asking it. I think it was a way for her to try to, A, demonize her supporters.
Right.
And demonize Republican voters, while at the same time still being able to capture enough Republican voters to win, the people that know her and stay out of the trenches and don't know any of the issues.
Yeah.
Because, in fact, there's only been one time that being gay came up in election that I actually spoke out about it. And that was when a local bankruptcy attorney was running for judge. And I endorsed the judge that won because I absolutely thoroughly loved the guy, and he was gay. And the guy that was running against him was making a big deal out of the fact that the guy was gay. And so I was like, yeah, no, you know what? I like the gay guy. I'm voting for him. And like that's the only time in my entire career in radio that's ever happened. And I find that Republicans that make an issue out of it are idiots.
Right.
Because
yeah.
nobody cares the way they would like to think people care. But I think when Michelle did this, she did it as a way of saying to people on the left, you can vote for me and you can vote for him. You can vote for him because he's gay and Republicans won't, even though he's running as a Republican. That's what made the whole thing so cringeworthy.
Signaling,
she literally was smacking Republican voters in the face saying, you're too stupid to know how to vote for somebody who's gay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you how to use a pen.
Too conservative.
Yeah,
or
yeah. It was
call
it was absolutely ridiculous. Okay,
The libertarian candidate for president is.
you just got to put somebody
is
up
he
or
really?
stop talking about
I
it.
didn't know.
Yeah, and who cares?
Yeah.
It's
No.
the last thing I bring up when
Because nobody cared,
yeah,
right?
no one cares.
Yes.
I mean, when did we start caring about what people do in the bedroom if they're running for political office?
I mean, nobody. If we did, Kamala Harris wouldn't be on the ticket.
Well, we can go back a little bit. I mean, people were upset about Slick Willie and Lewinsky.
Dude, that was in the Oval Office,
that was
dude.
after he was in the office, and it was
I don't
because
care.
he
Like, I don't care that
probably
he was doing it either,
defamed
but
the
in the Oval Office,
Yeah.
you're like, eh.
I'm sure.
You're like, if I got a chance for a cookie with my wife in the White House, I'd take it.
and I'm sure Kennedy and Monroe had their.
Well, you know, it
moment.
helps when you hire your brother as Attorney General. Just
Exactly.
saying.
Don't take a black light to the
like,
Oval
who
Office.
cares?
Right,
Just saying.
right.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't blame people for that kind of stuff. My only issue with Clinton on the whole thing was, okay, you did it, whatever. Don't like it's the lie that
Did
makes
not
the issue.
have
Yes.
sexual relations
Right,
with
right.
that
No,
person.
Like,
you
I
didn't
didn't
target-
inhale.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You used
Quit
the
wasting
cigar,
my weed
okay?
then.
Yeah.
If you're not going to inhale, don't waste my weed.
I mean, let's be honest, dude. She saved the dress and didn't wash it. Like, that's all just weird crap. It's just odd, right? And the only thing that
There's
bothered me about the
DNA
whole
samples on
right.
there.
It's like Hillary. You had one job, lady. You had one job. You couldn't do that. Like, anyway,
They're not a marriage of marriage. They're a marriage of business.
I agree. I
To
agree.
get Bill elected, she was the right pedigree.
I agree.
In
All
my
right.
opinion.
Okay, so let's get back to this. Trump pushed the reporter. Then here's what he did. Ready, folks? Here's what Trump did. Define DEI. Was his response to her. She responded by stating what the acronym
I'm
stands
actually
for,
happy about that response.
and
That's a
she
good one.
refused to provide a definition.
No.
The reporter rephrased her question.
So he turned it right back.
Yeah. The reporter rephrased her question. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she's a black woman?
Oh.
Now, we're going to play this game again. I think Dennis looks preoccupied over there. Dennis, did you hear me okay? Do you want to answer this one, or are you busy, bud?
I heard you. Boy, I don't want to go first on that one.
Dennis, like, that's like being in the pole position and pissing everybody off.
Go.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, go
Can
ahead.
you restate it, though,
Yes.
please?
The reporter rephrased her question. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Ticket meaning, did they expand on that at all? Because
She's
On
only
the-
on the ticket because, like,
the Biden
she's
Harris
on the
ticket.
Biden Harris ticket. Yeah,
ticket,
is
yeah.
she on there only because she's a black woman?
Oh, well, she's on there because she got elected as VP, but yeah. I mean,
But was
originally-
she on the ticket?
Originally, she
Yes.
was selected to be elected with Biden because she's a woman. We haven't established if
On
it
the
was-
race thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
we haven't
race,
established.
yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
We haven't
So-
established that, but it is because she was a
she
woman.
didn't have a third leg. I mean,
Yeah.
that was very clear.
Yeah, there was no
There's-
rudder there to steer the ship. All right. What? Y'all thought it. I just said it.
I've never heard it that
Oh,
way.
really?
Yeah, that's why I'm laughing. That's a good one.
This is an old scuba diving joke. Speaking of scuba diving, Tom, let's
Yes,
talk
sir.
about Kamala Harris.
Okay.
That was an incredibly
down.
inappropriate. That was, okay, Tom, what
Yes, sir.
did Donald Trump say when he was asked, do you believe Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
What did
Trump
say?
responded with, and go.
God. I'm trying to think like Trump, and that hurts.
I see the pain forming on your eyebrows.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Dennis, do you want to help Tom out? He's having some internal hemorrhaging
break it
going
down
on.
because he just said, can you explain what DEI is or give a definition or whatever?
I'm honestly, I think Lori's got the right thing. I mean, if he was smart, he would say, well, she's on the ticket because she was a woman. I mean, Biden
That
said
would
as
have been
much.
an accurate answer,
That,
too.
that would
wouldn't
have
it?
been smart.
Yes.
You know, as for race, who cares?
Yeah. Well, Dennis, do you want to give it a whirl? Do you want to try to guess what Donald Trump said?
As a long shot, he just came back, well, of course.
Okay, good answer. I think Dennis may be the closest. Trump responded, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different.
Oh.
What? Okay, so here it is. Here's what set the world on fire. She was always of Indian heritage. She was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black.
Oh, boy.
So I don't know. Is she an Indian or is she black?
That wasn't phrased right.
I respect either one, Trump says, but she obviously doesn't.
Oh, that was not phrased right.
Wow.
Orange
I
Man
mean,
sticks his
yeah.
foot in the mouth so
Isn't
well.
she Indian and Jamaican?
So I had to do some research because I wanted to be very precise. So
Thank
now
you.
we're going to actually listen to how Trump answered the question.
Okay.
And I'm just going to play it here because I'm taking this off of the Blaze Media.
That Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman.
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black
I
woman. She went to a
respect
historically
either
black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't. Because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do
And
you
I think,
believe
I
that
think
she...
somebody should look into that too when you ask, continue in a very hostile...
Yep. Isn't that interesting?
Open mouth, insert foot.
Well, first of all, let me ask you guys.
Isn't Jamaican? My experience. I'll just use my experience.
Yes.
I'll bring out the damn saying. In my experience, when I've met people from Jamaica, they are considered black or African American because of ancestry. There are some very light-skinned Jamaicans, and there's some very, very dark.
Jamaica is 90% sub-Saharan African.
Okay.
And people from Jamaica do consider themselves African American.
Yeah.
But they do not consider themselves black. I have a Jamaican brother-in-law.
Really?
He
Well,
will
that's-
tell you in a
yeah.
heartbeat. He'll say, I'm not black,
So-
I'm Jamaican.
So that's
Okay.
what I was getting at.
Okay.
Was they 90% of the country's population is sub-Saharan African. When they are forced to identify on documents, they will choose African American. But
Otherwise-
only because Jamaican is not a choice. They consider themselves Jamaican.
Yeah, otherwise, there's a lot of
Again.
pride,
Yeah.
pride
Oh, yeah,
in their
national pride.
ancestry.
There is,
Yeah.
there is. Well, and so the reporter's
Jamaican bobsled.
response was really interesting,
love
and
Jamaican
I found, because as I was listening to different commentators today, Stephen A. Smith being one of them, talking about this,
Yeah.
and they were talking about it in ways. Well, Donald Trump is who we knew he was, right? He's just giving an answer in the way that he answers questions like that. And so I was like, well, this is interesting because he says she's always identified as Indian, yada, 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 right? So I'm like, well, this is interesting. So I had to go do some digging.
I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. When my mother, Shamala, stepped off the plane in California at 19 years old, she didn't have much in the way of belongings. But she carried with her lessons from back home. Growing up, my mother would take my sister, Maya, and me back to what was then called Madras, because she wanted us to understand where she had come from and where we had ancestry. And of course, she always wanted to instill in us.
So I found that very interesting because in point of fact, that reporter was wrong.
Yeah.
When Donald Trump says, well, she's identified as an Indian, right?
Right.
Well, guess what? She absolutely has. That took 30 seconds to find, right?
Yeah.
I am not going to even argue the fact whether she's... We've talked about this a few times on the show. We've talked about it with Kevin and very earnestly and for good reason, because we have seen a propensity of people in this country to say, I am blank/American. And they do it in whatever way suits them the best at the moment. Even if it's a congresswoman claiming she's, 1/16th Cherokee and she's really 1/1024th, right?
Right.
We see this more and more often, right? Barack Obama, half black. You ask him, I'm the first black president. Yeah, you are. I mean, we're not disagreeing with that, right? But it's they identify with the minority heritage. Not everybody by any stretch, but a lot of people identify with the minority heritage. Let's be honest. If it gets them ahead.
Yep.
Or it protects them.
Or it protects them, yes, because then they become a protected class. Right?
I
don't disagree with that.
But it's convenient to benefit them. They pull a Tiger Woods.
Whoa. See, I struggle because I was raised white, and I didn't know until a bunch of friends and I decided to do one of those DNA tests. I'm adopted, by the way.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And so,
you should make that a primary focus point in your campaign.
Anyway, so I I did it, and I was teasing my extended family, especially my sisters, who were birth children to my parents. And so, the stories throughout the years, salacious, oh, mom had an affair and hid it, and you were the byproduct.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah. All the stuff that came up.
Come here, Mikey. Pop.
But anyway, so then I did my DNA, and it turns out that one thing that my ex-husband had suggested when he thought he ran into a potential birth sibling of mine years ago, he goes, I think the printer ran out of ink on you. And so, curiously enough, my DNA is not American.
Okay.
My ancestry is Europe. It's Portuguese and Moroccan.
Oh,
with
fascinating.
A dash of
Hey, that was a
Venezuelan.
short boat ride, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Short boat ride, but you're missing a little pigment there, man.
I know.
Have you ever been to Morocco?
No.
Okay, I haven't either. So
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that the northern African tribal folks were very light-skinned, if I recall. Yeah, it was just well. Anyway,
but yeah, I and it's one of those things. So I found out my DNA, and I was discussing it at work. I work in corporate America, and they were like, oh, "You should start claiming the two races."
Right? Yeah, because it gets you extra points.
So I did
Yeah.
as a joke.
But it didn't get you anything, did it?
No,
Right.
Except for my boss going, "Hey, don't you have redheaded children?" Yeah, I do.
Yeah, there's this other half of the cake when it gets baked that comes
Sorry.
from another donor. That's how that works.
Yeah.
So I guess it gets back to the ultimate point about this was, what goddamn difference does it ever make?
Right.
Like, aren't we way the hell past that? Like,
Yeah.
the issue with DEI hires, I get why publicly that can be an issue because a lot of people, myself included, look at it in the same way we looked at hiring quotas back in the day, right? Like, oh, you have to hire X amount of people that are female and X amount of people that are minorities, et cetera, right? Affirmative action stuff, right? And they're like, well, because people have been oppressed for so long, they haven't had a chance to get ahead. And I look at it and I'm in a much more pragmatic way and say, well, only 30% aren't white because 70% of the nation is white. Like, that's how I look at it. Maybe I'm screwed up for doing that, but I don't think so.
It's pretty simple math.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And so when you have somebody like Kamala Harris, who, let's be honest, I've heard this argument, she doesn't have the experience. Bull. Come on, people. Donald Trump didn't have any experience in politics. Barack Obama had very little experience in politics. What difference in politics does it really make anymore? Right? How many people become congressmen with no experience in governing?
Quite a few.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a baloney argument, no matter what side of the aisle I think
it's
you're
more
on.
connections.
Yes.
And, well, it used to be policy, but I think it's connections and not just the connections to like corporate America or the military industrial complex, but also the bureaucrats.
Yes, it's about the people you get behind you, how much money they have, and how much they're able to raise you up, right? J.D. Vance, that's part of the reason he got to where he's at. He knew the right people.
Yeah.
You know, David, I think it's David Thiel is his last name anyway, but he's a big guy from Tech America, and he put all the money behind J.D. Vance and got him into Congress. So, is it Peter Thiel? I don't. Anyway,
it's Peter.
Yeah, the whole point of all of this, though, is because apparently it is, as was pointed out earlier by one of the listeners, right? Well, how come we've sat here for the last 3 years being told all about DEI? And these positions are being filled within certain companies and government roles, and we are told it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. You got to get with the program. You got to hire X amount of people. We're reintegrating this program where we have to hire people based on their race and not based on their qualifications, right? So based on that alone, which has been pushed by the Biden-Harris administration and the government for the last 3 years, does anybody suggest that it doesn't? Does anybody here think that this DEI stuff hasn't been pushed by the Biden administration?
Oh, I think it was pushed actually ahead of Biden.
Okay, before? Okay.
I forget his name. We've talked about him before, but he was BlackRock, I think it is.
BlackRock, the financial group?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see his face. I can't think of his name. He was like the architect of ESG, DEI.
Okay.
And now has walked around and done interviews and said, he won't say he's wrong, but he's like, hey, we've gone too far.
We've definitely gone too far. And for those of you that listened to Congress grilling the assistant deputy director of the FBI and the new head of the Secret Service, it's real apparent that we've gone too far. My point in all of this is it's very understandable why they would take such offense to the question, is Kamala Harris a DEI hire? I mean, honestly, like you and I talked about earlier, Lori, we have not been able to ascribe race to being part of that hiring decision, but we all know that her sex was. Now, does that count as a DEI hire? Maybe. I mean, we're not in Joe Biden's head. We don't really know, but he did specifically say, "I'm going to hire a woman," right? And his quote was, "We need better representation." And my response is, better representation than what? Like, what's your basis for comparison? Is it only because there hasn't been a woman in the White House?
I think
like that
so.
seemed to be the reasoning behind it, and that to me makes her a DEI hire.
Yeah.
And then my comment to the left would be, why do you have a problem with it? As was said previously by a listener, right? Why do you have a problem with something you put in place? It's like being Emily Randall and voting for or putting forth a police pursuit bill and then being mysteriously gone during the vote for it. What say you, Tom? You have to have an opinion, even as a libertarian. You don't get to gold off and skate on this.
No,
one.
I have an opinion, but what are we looking for? Specific. What's my opinion about, or what do you want to know? What my opinion is about?
I love the fact that you worded it that way as a libertarian. Okay, Tom, I will explain to you what your opinion is.
No. What do you want to know? Like the DEI thing in general.
How are your feelings on Kamala Harris is she or is she not a DEI hire? And if she is, what's wrong with that, considering it's been pushed by them for so long anyway?
Is she a DEI hire? I mean,
Tom, give us an answer, Tom.
According to Biden, I would say yes.
Okay.
Right? Because, he came out and said, I'm
Yes,
running with a woman,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Just like Ketanji Jackson Brown. Yeah, we could throw her into the same thing. Biden said, I'm going to appoint a black woman to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Like, that's as DEI as it gets.
Right.
Right? Is that important? No, it's part of their agenda. It's part of the progressive left agenda.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing you say, so correct me if I'm wrong, is your point is to these folks who are dogpiling on Trump, this shouldn't be a problem for you. You've been pushing this agenda, so why do you care if we believe she's a DEI hire? And I can answer that question.
I think that's accurate. I mean, if DEI is part of your agenda and it's important to your agenda, then stand behind it. And if someone says, "Oh, you're a DEI hire," then own it. Say
own it. That's exactly what Tom is saying. Own it.
Then own it. Say, yes, I am a DEI hire.
Yes.
That's
and
part
look
of,
at what I've done with it.
Right. It's part of
Yes.
it's part of my party. It's part of our agenda. It's part of what's important to us. And so, yes, I'm a DEI hire. Why? Who cares?
Yes.
And it's a huge demographic.
Yeah.
It is absolutely huge. Listen, folks, 3 white people sitting in a room representing 70% of America just explained the whole goddamn thing to you. Like, there should be no more question, no more doubt. Be a DEI hire. Live it. Learn it. Be part of it, man. Own it, said Tom.
Yeah.
It's not what a great segment of the Outlaw Radio Network without Kevin.
Except it's a bad word now.
It is a bad word now.
I don't understand that.
Right. Hey, we'll be
It's
right
right up
back
there with the
on the
N-word.
Facebook side. Outlaw Radio Network.
.com.
It's like drinking a Pepsi. Only not.
No,
your
it's not.
septic's will?
No,
So,
it's
yeah.
not.
So
It's nothing like drinking a Pepsi.
So I was just told, and I know you guys both probably are completely aware of this, and it made me absolutely sick to my stomach. I was talking to my wife, and my wife and I do not agree on everything politically, right? And
Which makes for a healthy marriage, right?
it does, except when I'm wrong. But what happens is it's
Makeup
too
sex,
often.
Paul. Makeup sex.
Yeah, wait, is that what it's called? So she explains to me, right, because she knows she is pro-choice and I am pro-life, and so
Really?
Oh yes. So that's a fascinating, touchy
is
subject.
Some friction.
Yeah. So she decided, she was like, "Is that a Pepsi you're drinking?" Like, yeah. Why? You know where I'm going with this?
No.
You got this look on your face. Okay. So apparently,
Pepsi and Coke.
Pepsi uses a fucking fetal DNA in what as one of the ingredients.
In the formula?
Yep.
What?
Yep. That's what I said.
I think that might be some myth, some urban legend.
Now
Yeah,
look
but
it up.
Coca-Cola used to have cocaine, and I mean,
It did.
everybody
But that's
thought that
where
was an urban myth
but
too,
that-
but it's really not.
But that's where the name came from, and you can
Yes,
go back
yes.
and
Yeah.
see that, and
Yes.
it's not hidden or anything.
How do you think all those people did? Signed up for World War II? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I hate.
Altered
I mean,
state.
Cocaine was very, very prevalent in the dental industry.
What?
Yeah, in the
Oh, yes.
1800s.
Before Novocaine, there was
yeah.
cocaine.
Yep. Yeah, because cocaine makes your mouth and gums numb and stuff. So dentists used to use cocaine to numb you up and then yank teeth.
Wow.
So I mean, cocaine's got a long history in like
So
frontier
does
America.
fentanyl in the
Well,
medical
I will-
industry.
No, I'm
I will
talking
tell you-
frontier America.
The first
Not in frontier, yeah.
No,
yeah,
cocaine,
yeah.
frontier America.
the first time I looked it up, The first one I pulled up was, oh, this is an urban legend. It's a myth. It's not true.
Yeah.
Well, then I dug a little bit deeper because I know how those fact checkers work, right? Here was the first question. Do some products contain fetal parts? The short, gruesome answer is yes.
Really?
Today's consumer products are not the soap and lampshades of recycled Nazi concentration camp victims.
Wow.
The new utilitarian use of people
Damn.
is a sophisticated enterprise not visible to the human eye.
We need an appetizer
Yeah.
before you go.
Perhaps
for
you are a
it.
diligent
Jeez.
supporter of or promoter of pro-life legislation, and you only vote for pro-life candidates. Avoid entertainment from musicians and actors who openly support Planned Parenthood, regardless, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, there is a whole list of products here that I have that include DNA from aborted fetuses.
Wait. I mean, how does that even figure into the formula? I mean, what would be the purpose?
What's the point?
Yeah. What is
That
the
was
purpose?
my question. What the hell would that be stuck in there for? And I don't want to pretend that I'm a chemist, and that's a deep hole, I imagine, to go down.
Can you send me that link? Because dun dun dun.
Yeah.
One of my close friends has her doctorate in
Enbril?
chemistry.
To relieve rheumatoid arthritis.
Chemistry or biochemistry?
Zora
Chemistry.
Astovax or Merck, a shingles vaccine.
Yeah, most of your vaccines.
Yep,
do
diabetes
have
and renal
fecal- or
failure
fetal
is
material.
prescribed with RNSEP. There's a blood product,
Aricept?
Repro. Grandchildren or your children receive the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. Your daughter and son use coffee creamers and eat soup with artificial flavor enhancers, Cinemix and Fermenic, tested on artificial taste buds engineered from aborted fetal cells.
Oh, no.
Because of the vagary of FDA labeling, unless you are proficient at reading patents and pharmaceutical inserts, you wouldn't know aborted fetal parts were there without someone telling you. And that's where it started for me, and that's when my jaw hit the floor.
You know how happy I am I cook from scratch.
Me too. And I don't drink pop anymore.
No, I drink
unless
water,
it's necessary.
coffee, and whiskey.
To be
Wait,
clear,
is there anything about ginger ale in there?
I haven't actually got that far yet.
Oh,
There's
no.
there's a big dang long list here, man.
Man, those Canadians had better.
There's a lot of
not.
cosmetics.
All right,
supplies.
folks, we're coming back.
Oh yeah, right there, PepsiCo,
Wait, but PepsiCo is not just Pepsi. It's
and it's
We'll be right
Mormon.
back.
And my hand takes hold of judgment. I will take vengeance upon mine enemies, and I will repay those who hate me. O Lord, raise me to thy right hand and count me among thy saints.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network. OutlawRadioNetwork.com.
We must all fear evil men. But there is another kind of evil which we must fear most. And that is the indifference of good men.
Reading some of this stuff off on the list. Oh, are we live? Oh yeah.
Gave you the finger.
I know. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to start with this. And I'm not even going to say anything. I'm not going to preface this or anything. So if you were listening during the Facebook part, congratulations, you're in the know. If you're on AM radio, you're screwed. In 2005, Cinemix had contracts to develop products for Kraft Foods, Nestle, Campbell's Soup, and Coca-Cola. However, when it was discovered in 2011
Wait, Coca-Cola?
Yep.
Oh no.
However, when it was discovered in 2011 that PepsiCo was using Cinemix to develop a reduced sugar beverage, a boycott ensued that caused Kraft, Cadbury Adams LLC, and Campbell Soup canceled their contracts with Cinemix. In a 2012 letter to the Children for Life, PepsiCo stated, Cinemix does not use HEK, those are the aborted fetus cells, or any embryos or fetuses for research performed on the behalf of PepsiCo. To that effect, PepsiCo is working with Cinemix on 2 different products developing. Anyway, long story short, it's a sweetener called Sweet Mix 617, and it is a sweetness taste modifier. So like they said, unless you're like a chemist and you deep dive into the ingredients, you would have no clue.
And it's being marketed
Yeah.
to people who are pre-diabetic or are diabetic because they get the sweet taste without the
blood sugar spike.
blood sugar spike and everything else.
Yeah.
Holy
I don't.
crap.
I don't even.
By the way,
Yes.
Katie, love you, Katie. Thank you. Sorry, Paul, but love you, Katie. Thank you for pointing this out.
It made me ill, man. I was just.
Oh, yeah.
Can't even get.
Wow.
Yeah. Tom, we were having an interesting conversation in our chat room
Yes.
before the show tonight, and I loved the fact that you pointed out this would be a great conversation to talk about tonight on the show.
Are you talking about AI?
Not that part. Oh, you're killing me, Tom.
Which
there's only one. Well, what did we talk about?
We talked about technological milestones in civilizations, and
the civilization part, yes. So you had posted a story. We've been talking about political attitudes are changing. Europe has seen a rise in conservatism, and now it's getting ugly. Is that ringing a bell for you? And my comment to Tom, for those that are listening, I said, shouldn't we get right down to the core issue of conservatism? And this is the interesting part I want to start with, right? And then we'll see where it goes, because I know some listeners are going to tune in. They already tuned in. That was dumb. They're going to pipe up and put some stuff in the chat room, okay?
Let's go, people. Get in the chat.
I'm rereading our conversation here while you talk. So
okay. So here's the concept behind the conversation. We're talking about being, because I do not consider myself a Republican, but I am conservative, right? I'm fiscally conservative, and I'm actually socially moderate. Like I'm kind of a nunya kind of on most social issues, with the exception of abortion, which I am pro-life staunchly, but I also believe in our legal system, and I do believe that since abortion is the law of the land, it is what it is, right? I don't have the authority to tell somebody they shouldn't or couldn't or anything else. It's the law of the land here. So thus, I leave it alone. I don't like it, but I leave it alone, right? And then I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I think most of us here are.
Yeah.
And so those are the
2A
two big.
protects 1A.
Yes, those are the two big social issues that I really, really care about. And then it kind of morphs into being pro-life. Children comes really close after that. But the point is, why do most of us Gen Xers, right? Why are we the largest group demographically of fiscal and social conservatives? Like, in the sense of, why do we look at the woke left? They are very different from us. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, right? I'm a firm believer that it takes all sorts of peoples in a country to make it work, because we need all those different perspectives. But let's really kind of boil this down, right? Like, we all have seen, we grew up in a world, and I'm willing to bet you guys were just like me. You ran drills where you had to hide under a desk, and you heard that air raid siren go off.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Because you were always worried about what?
The bomb.
That's right.
Nuclear bomb.
The nuclear bomb.
And we grew up with
Russia.
yes, and we grew up with those movies, right?
Oh,
The
yeah.
Day After and
Red Dawn.
Yes, and
War games.
Yes,
War games.
And I was
Would you
thinking
like
more
to
like
play a
along the
game?
lines of the ones that are made like almost like reality TV shows. I don't remember if you guys remember those or not. I'll show you after the show some examples. But there were some that were done as though somebody was like, there was one where there was a news reporter, and he was out on a U.S. aircraft carrier, and they basically simulated this was a news report, is what this movie was made to look like. And so it was made to look like it was live.
Right.
Okay. So you remember? Now you remember?
I remember.
Yes.
I can't remember the name of that
Yes,
movie.
but you know what I'm
it's
talking
like,
about.
I think
Yes.
so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we grew up in a world where communism was the word of the day. It was all over the world. Because it hadn't failed completely in a lot of places yet. It was almost at its zenith, right?
Right.
In places like Russia, East Germany was still a thing while we were in high school,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right? Mr.
Yeah.
Gorbachev, tear down that wall.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
saw
was the wall.
the grand effect. We saw the cause and effect of the Bolshevik Revolution, right?
Yes.
We saw that experiment come crashing down, and we saw the video footage of their stores with empty shelves. We all were here when Mikhail Gorbachev went into a United States grocery store and was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I want this in my country, right? So he openly started working with different organizations and groups to make Russia, or make the Soviet Union more westernized, right? I don't even know what you would quantify it as now. Some sort of, I mean, they fake like they're kind of democratic in a way, but I don't even know what kind of government you would even license them as.
Socialist, really. I mean, the government is still so involved.
And they control everything.
Yeah.
So Tom, could you look up for me the definition, a couple of definitions? Let's look up the definition of communism, and let's look up the definition of socialism, because I'm going to have you read those off to me.
No.
And the reason why is because as our conversation was going on, I felt like, it's like we should really get down to the nuts and bolts of this, because what is woke? What is being woke? Being woke is a new version, right, of socialism. It's encompassing a social platform, society, and a government into a socialist utopia, right? Now, socialism, in my opinion, is effectively prepubescent communism.
Yes.
Right? Like
yes.
it goes through its growing pains, and eventually it becomes communism.
Yeah. It's the preteen to
Yes.
communism being the teenager.
Yeah. And it is just like a teenager, because think about it. It's like, you're teen, I want this and I want that. You don't know what it costs, kid. I don't care. I want it. Give it to me, or you don't love me, right?
Gimme.
Yes, okay?
Yep.
And that's socialism. I want this and I want that, and somebody else is going to pay for it. Da-da-da-da-da. Finally, you grow up. That's communism. That's it. That's where it don't matter. You're giving it to me. You lose it. It's all gone. I own it all. Right? Yes, that's for those people that are listening. That's a very simplified way of looking at it, but I thought that it contained some humor and was slightly entertaining. So, this idea that the woke ideology that we deal with right now on the left side of this country, people like us can sit there and wag our finger and say, this is a bad idea, and here's why. Let's get to the root of it. Tom, what definition do you have there for me?
Do you want to start with communism?
I have socialism.
Okay, then Lori, read socialism.
Socialism would actually make more sense to start with this over.
You're right.
Okay, socialism, a political and economic theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. We want a real democratic and pluralist left party, one which unites all those who believe in socialism. When they say in the Google definition, owned by the community, that's not what it is. Owned by the government.
Okay.
The government is the owner, and they make the decisions. There is no individual or community owner.
And then, Tom, what does communism say as the definition?
What I've got is fleshed out quite a bit, so
that's okay.
Yeah. Communism comes from the Latin communis, which would be directly translated, common universal.
Tom, what is communism?
I'm getting there. Communism is a socio-political, philosophical, and economic ideology within the socialist movement, whose goal is the creation of a communist society, a socioeconomic order centered around common ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange that allocates products to everyone in the society based on need.
Perfect.
Right. So that comes from Karl Marx.
Yes.
And Karl Marx's quote was, to each according to need, from each according to their ability. The problem, communists often seek a voluntary state of self-governance, but they disagree on how they're going to get there. And that's the problem with communism.
Yeah, is that the only problem with communism?
No. The list is long and distinguished. But the first step, you got to be able to take the first step, and you can't even do that. So it's a failed project out the gate.
It is a failed project, but it has not stopped certain countries from instituting it, right?
Right.
And there are still some pure communist countries left on planet Earth, right? What are some of those purely communist? Cuba's one.
Yeah.
Although Cuba's slowly changing.
Cuba's slipping too.
Right? Because of the death of the Castros and those dimwiddles.
I said that was the first one that came to mind was Cuba.
Yeah. China, would you still consider them communist?
No, they're more socialist
I think
now.
I think they're somewhere in between socialism and communism. The Soviet Union collapsed and became a bunch of independent states.
Well, so China opened up to the West and brought in all that manufacturing and stuff, and
what did it do for them?
Well, it almost pushed them towards capitalism, which is why they're more socialist than anything else.
That's why
now.
everything freaking made there ends up being sold here.
I disagree. I think that they are communist. It's just that their economic policy is capitalist, but the government controls that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I
they
think you
have
guys
a-
are saying the same thing.
They have a social
China's
credit
weird.
score like you would not believe.
Yeah, China's just.
Oh, we'll get to that later
Yeah,
because that
yeah.
scares the bejesus out of me.
Right. And it should. Everybody pay
So
attention.
the reason why I wanted to bring this up and
Yes.
why do people like us fight so hard and we push back so hard against the woke left is because we've seen this crap fail for
Over
our
and
entire
over
lives.
And over and over.
It never works.
Nope.
It never will work.
Nope.
Never.
It fights human nature. You can't do it.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it, Tom. It fights human nature.
Like it or not, human nature is hierarchical.
Which-
There is a hierarchy. Someone is in control. I mean, and it's not just humans. It's any
That's
primate.
true.
And we
It-
hear
it's
that
any primate.
We do to what you're saying when you think about, and this is why I was so glad you guys read the definitions, because words matter, right? That's what President Obama said. Words matter.
Yes, they do.
And as soon as we start changing definitions or pretending that certain things don't mean other things, right? You know, is Kamala Harris a DEI hire? I didn't hire her. He hired her. Only he would know, right? But he did make a comment about it.
Right.
We're in a world now where we have all seen what ways work in governance. We've seen them. Now, that doesn't mean they're perfect. I don't think
No.
there is any such thing as a perfect government. Nothing even close, right?
No, there was perfect government
When?
a long time ago.
Okay, Tom. I'm interested.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so am I.
First we have to embrace the fact that we as humans
Are not perfect.
Well, yeah, we're not perfect, but
Speak for yourself.
We
Whoa,
work best.
whoa.
We work best in a hierarchy.
True.
How do you better?
So-
you're the anthropologist here, so
Yeah.
I think
That's
I
where I'm
know
going
where
with
you're
this.
going. So go ahead.
So-
Yeah, this is good.
The United States. Let's just use the United States. Although it's
Use the Dr. Jordan Peterson lobster example. No, I'm kidding. Don't really use that.
Yeah, no, that one's deep.
That's deep, yes.
And it doesn't relate to human nature.
Gotcha.
But what I'm going to talk about relates to human nature. We're not designed like intellectually to be as big as we are. Right, where our government is too big, our society is too big.
I thought you meant as people. I
No,
was
no,
like,
no,
what?
no, no, no.
Where are you going
Our
with
our
that?
society is too big. Our government is too big. It's not manageable. Not
So okay. Well, you started this off by saying we had a perfect,
we had
okay.
it back when we were small, tribal, family-based communities.
Like when the Vikings were raiding and
Right.
pillaging and
thousands
torturing
of years
and raping.
ago.
Yeah, I'd
Hey,
consider that perfect.
It doesn't mean we were at peace, but those Vikings got along just fine in their own community.
Speak
Did they?
for yourself. I'm so happy to live in today's world.
They got along
Just saying.
just
I think you're
fine
making a point.
in
It's
their
interesting.
own
Yeah.
community. It doesn't mean that there weren't other communities that suffered under the Vikings.
So I think
Right,
your
right.
broader point is smaller society and groups meant that governorship was in a better way was more possible.
It was
Because that's
more
been one of my biggest agreements.
personal,
Yes.
right?
It's
So
why I
it-
think that some things like when you hear people talk about these perfect Anglo-Saxon type communities, and they always point to where? The same place, Northern European.
Oh yeah,
Always.
Yep.
Always pointing to the
Denmark,
Northern European.
Sweden, Finland, Norway.
And so my response is, well, how come you never point to a sub-Saharan African nation? How come you never point to the Middle East anywhere? How come you never point to the Indian subcontinent anywhere? How come you, right? They're always pointing, the socialists, the left woke always point to the same countries and say we should emulate them.
That's because those countries are small and they're reasonably successful socialist.
They're not socialists, though.
They're not. In
They're
fact,
not.
they are very offended by that term.
They're very capitalist.
There's still a lot of government.
They have social safety nets.
Yeah,
but
intervention.
Yes.
But they pay for that.
Well,
with a super high tax rate.
Yeah,
Right.
a really high tax rate, but then their government is almost like a corporation and gives them refunds.
Yeah. Why is that in Norway and Denmark and Sweden?
You going to say it or am I going to say it? What do they all have in common?
The weather.
Jesus, Tom.
No, I'm serious. How are you supposed to raise crops and food in the middle of a Nordic winter?
You're right.
So the government has to step in and help.
I think it's a mix between what you're saying and what I think you're going to say.
Yeah, I haven't even said it yet, man.
I know. But, I mean, you're saying weather.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're going to say skin color of some sort.
Oh, that would be racist, Lori.
Right?
I would never say anything like that.
I think it's in the middle. They have been stable communities or countries for
and they were some of the most unstable during the Viking Age.
Right.
Now all of a sudden they're getting it right.
And now they're stable, and they have figured out how to live, work, and govern, in a relatively harsh environment for many months out of the year.
Yeah.
So,
but
go to what you were going to say.
They're smaller countries.
You weren't going to go with the color?
No.
Oh,
they're,
okay.
they're smaller countries,
Sorry,
and
my bad.
and it makes it easier for them to have more control. But the one thing when I listen to interviews that people do when they talk about the Northern European countries, they always complain about the tax rates.
Mm-hmm.
The tax rates are so high it doesn't allow them to build up generational wealth.
Correct.
At all. It's not conducive to that.
That you can't build generational wealth living in that environment.
Right.
It's too harsh.
Right.
And a lot of what they do is when they retire from like Sweden or Norway or Finland, they move to the countries that are doing the worst in Europe. So Portugal, Spain, Greece, and that's where they retire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
because
and
they can
right.
they live like kings and queens.
Yeah,
down
their dollar, their money.
Kronar.
yeah, their money stretches further.
Yeah. I follow a podcaster who's on Svalbard, which is the closest.
Why do I know that name? Is that an island?
Yeah, it's a Norwegian island, and it's the closest to the North Pole. And then there's another.
Is that where the seed bank is at?
The what?
Svalbard, the seed bank.
Oh, yes, I know exactly which.
Yes,
yep.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Gotcha.
it is. Anyways, and so on Svalbard, when you get to a certain age, you have to go in for monthly checks with your physician. And once they deem that you are no longer able to live in that harsh environment, you're forced to move off the island. Same thing with if you get pregnant. There's no hospital. So if you get pregnant, by the time you hit 6 months, they ship you to either Norway, or you can go to Sweden, or if you have a family in Europe, they'll ship you wherever, but you can't stay on the island because they don't have anything to support you.
It poses some interesting ideas, doesn't it, right? And when my first go-to defense of the United States, when I hear people on the left talk about these great socialist utopias that exist in Northern Europe, I'm like, well, first of all, are you trying to say that only white people can do it right? Why aren't you talking about, like I said, Africa or the Middle East or someplace? How come no place in those regions is ever mentioned?
What's the problem with the Middle East? Why aren't they used as an example?
So
because they're not communist?
No. It's human rights. The left is never going to use the Middle East as an example.
I was going to say religion, so I think that you're about and listen, with your background, maybe you can touch on this. And I was just having this conversation with Hunter, who's in Poland, right?
Oh yeah.
And,
how's he doing?
And well, he called me the other day because we had a long conversation before he had shipped out, and I explained to him some of the things to be on the watch for that he could, he and I could talk about. And he called me up to tell me, he's like, "You're very right about something, Dad." And I said, "What's that?" And he goes, whether we socially want to accept this or not, think it's right or not, because I worked in immigration for a while, and I told him I explained to him why to me immigration is a bad thing, not legal immigration, not I have a job and I'm going to get a visa and I'm going to go to this country and work. That's not what I'm talking about.
No.
I'm talking about I'm going to cross the border and I'm going to come into your country and I'm going to sign up for whatever benefits I can get, and I'm going to do this whether you like it or not. Well, a lot of that has happened in Europe. Yeah. And a lot of it, due to their left-leaning societies over there, there are two distinct types of countries in Europe. Poland is one in the minority. And what I mean by that, Poland keeps guards walking along their border 24 hours a day. Why? You don't get to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just reading an article about Poland and their borders.
Yes.
They actually just relaxed some of that
They
because
did.
there used to be something like almost like a DMZ.
Yes.
Yeah, and they took that away.
Yep.
And they're talking about bringing it back.
Yes, and there's some good reasons for that, and I will talk about that when we come back from our break. So I'll just set it up like this by saying things are not as we realize unless you pay very, very close attention to European politics and news, because we don't hear about this stuff here, and it's a good thing we don't. Outlaw Radio Network, we will be back after this Facebook break. Enjoy some time with us in the meta world.
The movie is Special Bulletin.
There was a what?
Special Bulletin.
The movie was Special Bulletin.
Mhm.
What movie?
The movie
The movie we
with
were talking about earlier.
News anchor looked like it was
Oh,
real. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
In fact, Sean posted the link for YouTube.
Yes. And listen, that's
Thanks, Sean.
It's
'Cause
cool.
I'm gonna watch it again.
It is. It's there's a few of them. There's one that follows these families in Europe, or I mean in England during a nuclear holocaust. There's Special Bulletin, which is done in a news style. And in fact, that one stars Scott Glenn, if you remember.
Oh,
Scott Glenn.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He plays a young news anchor in that one. And
I'll
then
have to go
there's
revisit that
there's
one.
the one
Yeah,
with
me
Jason
too.
Robards and the guy from
Oh,
Police
wow.
Academy was in it, and that's
Which guy from Police Academy?
Leslie Nielsen?
Steve Gutenberg.
Oh, Steve
Oh,
Gutenberg.
Yeah,
Okay.
he starred in the one, and that was the one that takes place. In fact, the guy who played in Harry and the Hendersons, what was his name? John Lithgow is in it.
Oh,
Young
yeah,
John
yeah.
Lithgow, and so that follows the heart of the United States after a nuclear confrontation and war. And you know what? Even though these are old '80s movies, they capture.
Oh, yeah.
The emotion,
They did a good
right?
job.
When we were kids and we were growing up, and we were told, the Soviet Union, they're the big bad guy, and they want to destroy us. And listen, we'll never know, right? If they felt the same way about us, or if it was just programming from our government or our media, like how bad was the hatred and stuff really? Because right now, I mean, my daughter's family is all immigrants here from Russia.
Well,
So
All right, coming back.
Outlaw Radio Network.com.
This is the Outlaw Radio Network.
We got the finger.
we got Bush,
what?
George Bush.
Oh.
What'd you think I was talking about, Tom?
I don't
Which
know.
one?
Twice.
Don't you remember that Revenge of the Nerds?
Oh
Yep.
God, yeah.
When they put the video cameras
Yeah.
in the Pie's house.
Yep, and the booger
Oh,
comes
God.
out with, "We've got Bush."
Yes. I don't understand why. Like, I tried showing that to Hunter before he left for Poland, and he was like, "This is not funny." I'm like, I laughed so hard I peed when I was in junior high or high school whenever that came out.
Porky's,
That one and Porky's.
Animal House.
Yep.
There were yeah, you'd never be able to remake any of those movies now.
No chance in hell.
No. Mel
Nope.
Brooks.
Yep.
No Blazing Saddles. No
Saddles.
History
That's
of
what
the World.
Kevin said the other day. He's like, I'm going to go see Blazing Saddles for the first time. Oh, you better take a blinder with you, dude, because there are certain things. That dude tries to be politically correct. I mean, there are parts of that movie where somebody better put their eyes or their hands over Kevin's eyes, and somebody else better put their hands over his ears.
He's going to be like, oh, my
gonna have to-
eyes, my eyes.
He's gonna have to bring his monkeys.
But what about that movie C. Thomas Howell was in with Radon Chong?
That was the movie that ruined his career.
And because he
White Man, no, not White Man Can Jump. It was
that was.
But it was basically
Wesley
he
Snipes
made
and
himself
Woody
a
Harrelson.
black
Black man,
person
yeah.
so he could get
into college.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You
Couldn't
can't
make
do
that now.
today.
No. But you could make it so that a dude has a period and he becomes a girl in order to compete in the Olympics as a boxer.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. That is
Nope,
I'm not watching the Olympics.
That's on the docket here. Sure, that's the next topic.
I
So
watched some good fencing, and there was some really.
You know what? I saw that
did
was
you
on.
see the Polish
and
woman
I was gonna.
who won?
No, I've been having to
Fencing?
catch it all in recaps.
I was going to actually message you and be like, dude, there's U.S. Fencing is on right now.
So I just keep going back to the Peacock app, and I'll go through the stream and pull up, whatever happened most recently.
Soul Man was
Soul Man, that was it. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
that's
Thank you,
right.
Corey.
Yep, very good. I for those that haven't seen the new ads that have come out yet about Kamala Harris, they talk about a new dinosaur called Suck a Lot of Cocks, and the commercial really drives home the point. As the dinosaur is getting off of the airplane, and they point out that she's wearing knee pads, and I don't, people, that should not be an issue, okay? It should not be an issue. It really shouldn't. We don't care who anybody slept with to get to the top.
Yeah,
not when it comes to politics.
I mean, let's look at Bill. He
Yes.
slept with Hillary.
Yes, it's it's kind of funny. I would love to say this, and this is because it doesn't matter that I dislike her politics, right?
But who's Hillary's or
Harris?
Kamala's?
Oh,
Harris.
Harris.
Yeah. But that's one of those things, like, I just want to, when I hear people mention it, I'm just like, shut the F up, man. Like, really, seriously, come on. Like, I don't know, Kennedy?
Yeah.
How many women did he have in and out of the White House, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, most of them probably had. I mean, the only people I would say that maybe didn't was Ronald Reagan, and that's because Nancy was, had the stars to keep track of him. So,
yeah.
like her and her Ouija board. So I don't know, man.
I mean, look at Jill Biden. Jill Biden changed out her Secret Service detail because she wanted all men, and they had to be a certain age, a certain height, and a certain build.
Wait a second. Where did you hear that? I haven't heard that.
It was in February of 2021.
No,
Yes.
I had no idea.
And then you see the famous picture of her getting off the plane,
Yeah.
Air Force One, I assume. She's in a black leather miniskirt.
Who are we talking about here?
Dr. Jill Biden.
F me running, really? I hadn't heard anything about that.
Black
Where have I been?
heels, and she's got fishnet tights on, and she's got her new Secret Service detail. Yeah.
I'm going to have to go dig into that one. That sounds like a fascinating topic right there. Especially with all the Secret Service bungling brotherhood BS going on
that
right
was shortly after what? The whole, what was it, prostitutes in Colombia? Or
There was an issue with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Secret Service and prostitutes.
Yeah.
Well,
there you go.
I think Obama started the whole Secret Service thing. Wasn't it?
No, they started with the Pinkerton Detective Agency. The Pinkertons started back in the 1800s.
No. I'm talking. You didn't let me finish. Wasn't the first female Secret Service agent under Obama? Wasn't that during the Obama administration?
I have
Would you
no
like to
idea.
clarify that? Would you
The
like
first female Secret Service agent that was
during
assigned
the administration of Obama?
Right,
Not
right.
under.
Well. Thanks, Lori.
Hey,
It's not what I was
trying
thinking.
to keep it above
I don't know
board.
the answer to it, but I think somebody will probably look it up.
I
Was
thought
it?
I thought it was Obama
earlier
had
than that.
no. I think it was Obama who had the first female Secret Service agent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was sexist.
I might be remembering it wrong.
Anyway, I think just to wrap up our last conversation, I had something I was going to talk about when we came back from break about it, and I totally space cadetted it. So the bottom line was, though, is I thought that we should get down to, for those that know and understand history, we can look throughout history and we can recognize what kinds of governments work and what kinds don't. Oh, I know what I was going to say. That's right. Yeah, we were talking about how other parts of the, as Hunter is in Poland,
I remember that.
He pointed out to me, he was like, Dad, I understand why you say the things that you say now about immigration. Because and here's why I say, because he goes, you can't go a day without opening a newspaper or turning on the news here in Poland and seeing how many people were raped, stabbed, murdered, always by illegal immigrants, by people who were illegally in the European countries, who came there, who brought their culture with them.
Yeah.
Right.
And they brought their culture and felt that they didn't have to answer to the laws of the country they were in.
Yep.
The Afghans are some of the worst. You know, you're talking about grown men who think taking advantage of young boys is acceptable and okay.
Yeah.
That's a really big problem in the UK right now because they took so many Afghan refugees. And the Syrian refugees have really made a bad name for themselves. I spent the best and the worst 2 weeks of my life in Uganda. 2 weeks, all I was there. Flew in under the Red Cross flag. My buddy's dad was the British ambassador to Uganda. So he said, I need people, military experience, to provide security for 2 weeks for food and medical supplies so that they can land, drop it off, guard the tarmac. So we did that. That's all we did. It's nothing more than that. And I developed the opinion that the people that I met and the things that I saw, because I was right there doing that at the same time that you guys remember the movie Hotel Rwanda and the massacre went on.
Yep.
Okay, I was there right after, about 2 months after that had happened.
Ooh.
But this is while Kony, basically the terrorist, was running wild across Uganda, basically killing families, taking 10, 11, 12-year-old boys, giving them AK-47s, making them shoot their parents. And then he was like recruiting them into his little army.
Right, yeah.
Well, I became of the opinion, and this is after Desert Storm when I didn't go into combat, but I was ready to go. I became of the opinion that the African continent, there's a reason why they've had so many problems. For whatever reason, and I don't know anthropologically speaking, and maybe you do, and this is what I was going to say to you earlier, Tom. I feel that they are as a culture on Africa, that the culture that exists there is incredibly immature as a culture, as a society. And as a result of that, they're not able to get their act together enough to really govern themselves effectively.
Can I
please
add
go
before you go on that? I kind of agree with you, Paul. I think it's more that the biggest bully wins in Africa. And so
I think that's true.
Going back to the whole tribal thing and all of that, that's why I'm glad I live in the United States at this time in history, because I wouldn't want to be in that small community, because they typically are, one guy's in charge or maybe two or three. But what I've seen, and I don't have boots on the ground experience, so just what I've seen from news that probably is not 100% unbiased, is that it seems to be that the biggest bully wins and they're in charge, and whatever their proclivity is for whatever fetish or whatever disgusting violence, that's what they do, and they compel others to stay alive. You have to participate.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is a fascinating question. It's kind of why I was looking towards Tom to give me some insight, because when I look at the Middle East, right? The Middle East has some very successful governments and societies and cultures, but most of it is in the tank right now, right? It's in some form of conflict and has been for a long time, since, well, basically the end of World War II.
Oh, longer than that.
Yeah,
of course, longer than that. But I'm basically saying at the end of World War II, as soon as they created Israel, it was like an excuse for conflict. So I look at the Middle East like I look at Africa, and I think that it's a cultural issue. I look at the Middle East, I believe that it's a religious issue. When I look at, China, Southeast Asia, stuff like that, India, you can see their cultures and how they evolved, right? And how they've done a much better job of managing themselves and raising their cultures up. Some of the smaller countries there have not, right? They haven't. Myanmar,
okay,
New Guinea.
Right.
There are some countries that have not done a good job. North Korea, right? They have all the potential in the world. They haven't utilized it. Why? It's their culture. You look at Europe. What's happened in Europe? First world countries. Why? I don't know the answer to that. United States, Canada, and then look directly to the south. It's like Mexico's the redheaded stepchild of North America. Tell me I'm wrong, right? But then you go further into South America, where you have people still living in tribes naked in the jungle, and yet their countries are slowly evolving and becoming better governed, with the exception of Venezuela.
Yeah, Venezuela's a dumpster fire. Yeah.
But is the point that I'm making, does it make sense? Why is it that Western countries generally have done better? And am I wrong?
Because Western countries, Western Europe, the United States, Canada, all of those nations going back far enough, all had resources. They had resources that they were able to use for trade and commerce and that.
So your argument is that African countries had no resources? Because
African
I'm pretty sure they
countries-
had one resource.
Yeah, they have one resource that
diamonds?
made them important in the late 1400s to the 1700s, and when that resource ended, that's it.
So I
What else
understand where you're coming from. I completely disagree. I understand what you're saying about Western countries having resources. Australia didn't have resources.
Australia-
and that started as a penal colony.
Australia started as a penal colony. Those people weren't supposed to survive.
Right.
Correct.
So same with New Zealand, right?
Yep.
The indigenous people there, the Maoris, amazing culture.
Yeah, beautiful culture.
Right. And we look now. If you say the reason why some societies and cultures haven't flourished, and you point to say a lot of the small island nations within the Pacific, I would say understood.
Yeah,
really disadvantaged, right? They have no resources there.
But that's not true. They weren't able to trade. They weren't able to have commerce. But lots of the islands in the Pacific had beautiful cultures.
Well,
They just-
now you're
they-
twisting what I said. I'm not saying they didn't have beautiful cultures.
Well,
what I'm saying is,
so you
when you compare them to Western nations,
Right.
they haven't grown the same way.
That's because they weren't able to engage in commerce.
I'm agreeing with
Right?
you on that. Yeah.
So
that's literally exactly what I'm saying.
But I
too.
also think that some of the cultures don't care about commerce either.
Totally agree with that too. Some of them would
they
rather be left
realize
alone.
what they have, and what they have is better
Well,
than
that
spoiling
would,
it.
That
They
would
see
be
it
like
as spoiling it.
Yeah, well, that would be like Hawaiian, right? So I mean, the Hawaiians really didn't have a lot of trade other than
Yeah.
within those little
The
islands
islands,
right
yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have exactly that attitude that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They came up through thousands of years without any commerce,
Mm-hmm.
and now commerce is completely unnecessary, right? That's why you go to Hawaii to visit, and you're a haole, and you're not welcome because you're an outsider.
Yeah.
Right, but
let me ask you this, Tom. Is the point that I'm making sense in that you can look at the different countries around the world, and generally speaking, right? And again, could be completely wrong, but if I look at the countries around the world, I look at Europe, right?
Right.
And it seems to be on one plateau.
Right.
The United
Resource
States
rich.
and Canada, same plateau.
Resource rich.
Right. But your argument there, I think, is flawed only because I think there are resources everywhere. It's a matter of how they are used and how they are traded, right? Because Africa's full of resources, man.
But there was
all over the place. They built pyramids, dude.
They did, but there was never any technological development beyond that. So there was no development of those resources. Therefore, there was no commerce and trade.
They used hydraulics, as we now have learned, to raise multi-thousand-ton stones up 150 feet.
Right.
How did they lose their technology?
Here's the problem.
Same way we can't put anybody on the moon.
Yeah.
Here's the problem.
Again.
Yeah.
Your statement was they had.
Yes.
They never developed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere.
Right.
It
It
plateaued
never-
and then went.
It for whatever reason, it never developed. So there was never any technological development. Therefore, there was nothing to trade.
Because let's during the 12th century, 13th century, 11th century, who was the more technologically advanced? I know you know the answer to this one. You don't even have to think hard.
Probably the Mayans.
Well, I was going to say the Mordish. A lot of people in the Middle East.
Yeah, the Middle East. Yeah,
they were
the
phenomenal.
Mayans,
and maybe even the Chinese. It was not the West.
No.
Right? We were the Western societies and cultures were
No, it was the Dark Ages.
Yeah, they were the Dark Ages.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Why? Because of the fall of the Roman Empire, right?
Yep.
Like everything that we knew at that time was gone after the Romans disintegrated. Right.
And who controlled it?
Right. So what I find it's part of the anthropological conversation that I find so interesting, because we look at these ancient societies and we look at where they were at. Mm-hmm. We look where the Western societies and cultures were at, like you said, Dark Ages, when these other cultures and societies were flourishing.
Right.
Amazing cultures, right? And then something happened.
Yep.
I don't know the answer to that.
Usually it's cultural. You know, warfare, disease, famine, plague.
So were Northern Europeans just lucky?
No, they had their. So, I mean, Northern Europe had the, Northern Europe was conquered by Rome, like you were saying.
For sure, yep.
Okay, Roman Empire falls. It's going to take a couple hundred years to stumble along and pull your bootstraps
Definitely
back
took
up.
a few hundred years, didn't it? Yeah.
Right. That's normal for any civilization, right? Took them a couple hundred years, but there were, they reached back into, their predecessors and like, the Stone Age became the Bronze Age, became, more technologically advanced steels developed, metallurgy.
But again, I
etc.
can't, it's hard for me to escape this idea of what happened. You had the Egyptians, by the way, a phenomenal place to look, where I think it shows the height of prehistoric man's technical prowess, is one place, and it's in the heart of the most violent place in the world right now, at least tied for the top as far as violent places go in the world. And if you haven't heard of this place, folks, I implore you to go look it up so that you have a good idea of what I'm talking about here. It's called Baalbek, where the largest human carved stones in the world are and were moved. We're talking 100-ton pieces of granite that were cut and placed. We can't move that stuff today, folks. And yet in Baalbek, which is in Lebanon, these stones, there were multiples of these stones placed there in an old temple.
Yep.
At least they think it was a temple because they don't really know.
Yeah, Göbekli Tepe also.
Göbekli Tepe is a big one,
you.
yes. But they didn't.
I was
Theirs was
if I'm not reading
right.
it.
But the difference in that one was that was intentionally buried, and somebody was trying to send a message. Like they built it over the course of thousands of years and then buried it for some reason, and I don't know why.
Yeah, well, that's all lost technology. That building.
Are you under? Am I? I don't know if I'm communicating well. Like I said, so we saw Western civilization with the Roman Empire collapse. Western civilization went into the Dark Ages, while these other societies, cultures, China, Japan, the Middle East,
the Mayans,
Northern Africans,
the
Mayans,
Japanese,
and all of a sudden, it was like a rocket ship, no pun intended, for Western society in about the 1700s. Western society started this rapid climb.
The Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. So what? I guess my point is, so what happened? Why couldn't these? You can't tell me that South America, Central America, Africa, and the Middle East didn't have resources to be able to have the same type of societal climb.
They just didn't have the technological advances within their society.
So it was luck.
Control.
Luck.
Control. Education, as Corey keeps
Are you going to say
out.
the Illuminati? Was it the Illuminati, Corey? Is that who was controlling?
Well,
Education.
Education is nothing more than like oral tradition, right? Handing down the stories.
Tradition. Okay, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking
handing
about
down
Kamala
the
Harris.
stories
But also sharing, right?
Right.
Because,
it's-
let's look at the Silk Road or this, what was it? Silk Road?
Yeah,
or
the Silk
travel?
Road. Yep.
Yeah.
That went from the Middle East up into China.
Right.
Yeah.
So when people were traveling over to China, obviously they're learning things and they're bringing back things, especially tea.
And talk about an outlier, China, right? Where they still they're making supercomputers and still have people at the other end of the country living in mud brick huts.
Yeah, China was massive in their
they built the largest man-made thing on Earth. You can see it from space.
Yeah.
True.
China introduced pasta to Europe.
What?
What?
Yeah.
What are you saying about my Italian food?
Pasta came from the Chinese.
Oh, I didn't
Turn
know
the show
that.
off. Oh my God, no, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I didn't know that. I learned
I
something
didn't
today.
either.
Marco Polo was responsible for bringing pasta,
I thought
back to
I thought it was
Europe.
wheat to Italy, and that's where they started with pasta.
Fascinating.
No, those the Chinese. They started
With rice?
I'm not sure, to be honest, on that part.
Okay.
Still,
But
that's really
I know
really
that
cool.
Marco Polo brought pasta to the New World or to Europe.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Interesting.
Okay, well, I love this conversation. It was a great conversation, especially when we're talking about all the stuff that's supposedly, Donald Trump's a racist and all the rest of this stuff. It was a good conversation to have. I'm not thoroughly convinced that Tom was following my logic, but maybe my logic is flawed.
I don't know.
And so, yeah, well, my logic is flawed plenty.
Well, the thing is, I mean, there's so many variables that go into the rise and fall of civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, that's what draws my interest to the like the geopolitical picture of today.
Yeah.
I don't care about the little arguments and stuff. DEI hires. It's all.
Are you one of those guys, those grown men that thinks about ancient Rome 3 times a day?
No.
I was just checking.
No, not really.
Just checking.
But the big picture stuff, the things I talk about, how China is going to behave.
Because you look like Emperor Vespasian, reborn. Even the facial hair, dude.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, AI took all of the Roman, every Roman leader, basically, because there were different names for them throughout history.
Sure.
Right. Took a bust, sculpture, or coin of every single one of them and compiled them all together, so it made 3-dimensional heads of them all, so that you could see what they look like.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
A couple of them look Mongoloid, which was fascinating to me. But anyway.
I've seen a couple of renderings like that for pre-Homo sapien, like Australopithecus, and Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and that's
Homo erectus, guys, is a species of great ape.
Well, I wouldn't quite lump them in with the apes.
You wouldn't?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take your word for it because you're the one with the anthropology degree.
They had kind of departed the great ape family by then.
You know how many people don't know that we actually had hobbits on planet Earth?
What?
You didn't know? I know you've been out of anthropology for a while.
It's been a minute.
But they discovered on an island,
hobbits.
They discovered hobbits. In fact, not only did they discover hobbits, because the island was smaller and the populations that were there, they didn't get as big either. You know what else was they shared the island with? Miniature elephants. Pretty dang cool, huh?
I have some reading to do.
So many questions.
Right? I told you, man. I spent a lot of time listening to some good podcasts and all that stuff. You got to occupy your mind while you're painting a whole damn house. So.
Oh yeah, I occupy my mind. Often.
Yep. I think I have about 30 subscriptions and stuff. It's time for me to probably take some of them down. So just a couple of minutes left here, and I just want to get the thoughts from everybody on the. And I know people are going to go, Paul's transphobe. No, I just don't think a goddamn man should be putting on boxing gloves and competing against women in boxing.
Yeah.
I just don't think that should be going on. And it's worse that it's the damn Olympics that are letting it happen.
I agree, because especially with what Brittany or Riley
Gaines.
Oh, Riley Gaines.
Mm-hmm.
Went through to get the swimming,
right,
leveled out for at least the U.S. Olympic swimmers. And then the International Olympic Committee decides, let's go ahead and let these fighters in that are guys.
Yep.
One of them has already crushed the skull of a woman before.
Yep.
After they were tested, you have XY chromosomes. Did you hear the great reason the International Olympic Committee said they get to fight?
I did not. Dennis, tell me.
Oh, you don't? Oh, Paul.
No.
I'm gonna make your day.
He's gonna make you mad. He's going to make you mad.
The reason they gave that these men are allowed to fight is women, drum roll, not because of science. Ta-da! It's because it says female on their passport.
What?
Yep.
Because
I watched a video clip of it.
Someone typed female on a passport.
What the?
Okay,
Yeah.
then let's. Okay, if they
And
truly
these two
want to
dudes
be a female,
don't even try to look like women.
yeah, then let's do it like we do on the farm. Okay, let's take a rubber band, band them up, and we'll make them a female.
I heard a farmer make the comment, I think he did it on TikTok or something. He goes, for those of you that believe that a man that thinks he's a woman, yada, 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 can do whatever he wants, right? And he pulled out one of the banding clips.
Yep.
He goes, that's a bull. Go band his nuts and see how that works out for you.
Yep.
I mean,
it's horrible because I think
don't understand it, man.
I feel that women athletes need to be standing up.
Yep.
For everything that they fought for to be able to even get their own leagues and this and that, and now to have men invading it in the name of this is what makes me feel right. Get the F out of here. That is Tom can tell you, I've been in a bit of a rage for the past 2 days. Every time I come across something new, I'm like, God damn it.
Yep. And I guess, from my opinion, it's what would compel a man that he wants to compete against women? I mean, is it really? Yeah, it's got to be a weak.
Well, that was like the collegiate swimmer. That was his thing because, he was ranked 300 something as a man and number 1 as a woman.
Right, exactly. And it's like, okay, so you couldn't compete in your gender, so you're going to switch genders so you can take home the prize. But basically, your prize is a participation trophy.
And there have been people kicked out of the Olympics in the past.
For doping.
For doping, for substituting
for
a male to a woman.
out with their boyfriend to watch the sunset. That just happened at the Olympics.
And also, a lot of athletes are leaving the Olympic villages, too.
Yeah. Did you see their beds?
The accommodations are horrible. The food is horrible.
I heard
they say made out of cardboard.
It's like falling apart, basically, in France. It's turned into a laughingstock.
Yeah, because the beds are made out of cardboard. It's like, really? IKEA is just down the road in Sweden. You couldn't go to IKEA and get some wood and put it together?
Wow. She said wood.
I know, I said wood. I did.
I've really lost my respect for the Olympics this time around, and that's sad. They've lost sight of the Olympics, I feel.
I
and I have a feeling it's going to be quite a long time before the Olympic Committee is. Where are we going to host these Olympics? France?
Well,
no.
We do. We haven't. The next one is coming to the United States, so L.A. Studies show that men are able to produce 30% more upper body strength and 50% lower body strength more than women. And I heard somebody on one of the broadcasts point out that men are, when it all gets added together, they are 17 times stronger than women naturally on average.
Oh, yeah.
And it blows my mind.
When I saw this stuff, the story had the perfect headline. It was a picture of Ivan Drago saying, "If he dies, he dies."
You're right.
And women's boxing is not going to lighten up until someone is hurt or dies. It's going to be horrible.
I would hate to say this, but something like that almost needs to happen in the Olympics on a huge international platform.
All right, we got to log off, but we can finish up on Facebook.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Yeah, we love you too. We're going to talk more about women doing female stuff or men doing female stuff.
Hey, now we're on Facebook.
All right. You got me so...
Hey, you can say it now. We're on Facebook.
Frustrated talking about that topic, man. I'm like, I got stuff to say, man, but I know if I say it, I'm going to curse, I'm going to swear, I'm going to get into trouble.
Well, now you can get it out.
And that's what it's been. I'm like, okay.
But if you, Dennis, and we've heard this from people that listen to this show, they've attacked us because they've attacked you specifically, Dennis, for being a transphobe and saying that you're a homophobe and you're a transphobe, right? Because of some of the things you've said. They've said the exact same things about me. And my son is a wrestler. My youngest son, Truan, and I support it and I love him wrestling, but he has girls that he's wrestling against.
And see. Tom and I, when we have talked over the past couple days, we did not ignore that subject because there's women that turn out and want to play football on a high school or collegiate level, and they're allowed to. And it's like, okay, go for it.
There is very little difference between 12-year-old boys and girls physically. In fact, girls have I noticed was girls tend to win more than they lose in the wrestling, in the intersex sport at that level. By the time they get to high school, that's a different story.
But you get to high school where kids are developing and
muscle
that
density,
and older, it's
bone density.
I watched my nephew in high school, South Kitsap High School, and he would had a couple times wrestle against a girl. And it was very uncomfortable.
The boys are uncomfortable. Yeah.
I don't think I would have been able to do it because I have wrestled and I know where my hands end up when I wrestle because I'm trying to move my opponent around and take the advantage.
Yep. No, you're right.
I as a man who was raised to be a gentleman, I mean, I cannot get on the mat and manhandle a woman like that and try to win. But then the other side of it is, why can't go out there and just lose either?
Right. And so from the female perspective, remembering high school, having a brother, I don't know about today's young women, but I would not have wanted to wrestle against a guy just purely from the germ factor. I'll just leave it at that.
Right, but
a lot of
we
teenage
stink.
boys forget that they
we
should
stink.
wash their hands after they
for
use
me,
the bathroom.
Especially in wrestling.
I
That's
see
a big
it as
me.
a lot of these girls are doing that because they don't have an opportunity to wrestle on a girls' team.
Right,
There's
right.
not one. There's no opportunity there.
I will tell you
I,
that.
I think the trans people need to get on board with that thought. And gee, we need our own division.
Which I'd have no problem with.
I'd have no problem with it
Nope.
whatsoever.
None. I got no.
Let
I got no
your
problem.
trans compete with trans, and y'all do what you want.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but stop taking away what women have fought for
Right.
and developed over decades and decades,
Yeah.
maybe even over hundreds of years to get where they are now.
Yeah. True.
My
Title IX.
my daughter just turned 13. You know, and I've already had issues with boys sending inappropriate messages via different forms to her. And I'm finding that as a parent, as a responsible parent of a teenage girl, there's a particular way that you got to perform. In like a way you have to parent. Otherwise, your
okay.
daughter.
I was like, where are you going with this?
I'm going to just say it. This year there was a boy, and Katie, God bless her, had found some pictures that this boy had sent to our daughter.
Eggplant.
And pie plant mold edition, and I will say there were parts of his body exposed with words that should not have been written. She's 13. She's been homeschooled.
Right.
She is not wise to the ways of 13-year-old boys in regular
Right.
junior high school.
Yeah.
And it showed because she was like, "Mom, what's this?" Like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah, I'm kind of worried about dealing with that myself.
Yes.
My granddaughter,
You have to be different with a girl and a boy.
She's getting ready to turn 9, and she's being raised by her mom and her grandma. But still, Dad is cool. Dad is letting her get exposed to a little bit of the world that she wouldn't get to because my daughter and my ex created this little Jesus box that they live in.
Oh.
The bubble.
Of organized, not organized religion. The Church of Denise, as I call it. Yeah, my granddaughter doesn't get exposed to a lot of outdoor stuff. Right now, that's why she's loving every minute she gets with Grandpa.
How many girls do we hear about? Teenage girls go missing. And an Amber Alert goes out and it says, we believe she may be in the vicinity of this person, right? And it's almost always an older man.
Yep.
And this 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old girl decides she wants to go meet him because he knows how to talk to her, make her feel special.
Or it's an older female recruiting her. Oh, we want you for modeling or whatever. And it's not. It's
grooming
sex
and just luring them into trafficking.
Yeah.
And that's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's bad
and
because
remember,
girls aren't getting the education that I feel like my generation got.
Yes.
I mean,
and it scares me because we all live in a state now where if somebody's putting ideas into that young child's life, right, they can say, well, Mom, Dad, I want to go dress this way and be that way. No, kiddo, come here. Let's sit down. Well, you're not supporting my lifestyle choices. Look, it ain't about that. Well, if you don't, I'm going to go to these people and then I'll be gone.
Yep.
And then people criticize us, or in my case, me, because you're this way or you're that way, and you're a bigot and you're a fascist and all the rest of this stuff. No, I'm a parent that wants my children to be safe.
Yep.
And that part of that veil of safety has been stripped away by particular people that have run for office in Washington State. It's why they need to be replaced as quickly as possible by reasonable, rational Democrats like Lori here, or by any number of other people. And
Moderates.
Yes, because we need moderates on
Yeah.
both sides.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Stop doing extremes.
Yes, that is how our government is supposed to work.
That brings us full circle, because I think at the beginning of this whole show we were going to try to talk about what conservatism is.
Well, it's whatever I say.
This message brought to you by the election to elect Donald Trump.
Right? Yeah. But listen, it's to what you just said, bringing it all about full circle, Tom. I don't know that there is a definition to it. I really don't, and I think people confuse it a lot. I don't think there's a definition of Democrat. I don't think there's a definition of Republican or conservative, but I do think that it is easier to identify somebody who's a quote woke leftist. But
yeah,
but
and that's the thing. I like my self-proclaimed title. I am on the fence. I am that guy. There's stuff from both sides I like, but there's stuff from both sides that make me go, the hell is wrong with you people?
Yeah.
And that's why I cannot be one of those party people, because I'm not buying 100% of your bullshit.
Yep.
No, that's not fucking true. I heard you play that song a million times. Party people.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, party people.
Yeah.
All of you. I'm trying to get everybody's attention at once. I don't want to have to do 2 different shows.
Right.
But I think it even goes back to what Tom was saying. Everybody gravitates towards this party situation of either Democrat or Libertarian or Republican or far right or far left or woke or progressive or whatever, because they want to belong. They want that tribe.
I think that's a big
They
part
would belong,
of it.
but
they want the tribal membership.
In today's world, though, they've made it where that encompasses every part of your life.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
my decisions on what I'm going to eat for dinner now has to be based on my political beliefs.
The other problem with that is, so we have all these small tribes, and no one can get along. We can't go in and just say, okay, you over there with,
But we get along. We get along.
And we all have vastly different opinions. about stuff, too.
We're weird.
But it's because you JD Vance now?
No,
it's just a joke, because listen, they keep calling, all these Democrats keep calling, they're weird.
That was my HR comment, but go ahead, keep going.
But I mean, so like the progressive left, right? The super tilted over left. If you agree with them,
the Hollies
on,
of the world,
sure. If you agree with them on, okay, we'll use the abortion topic here, right? I think I'm the weirdo in the room as far as that goes.
You are? Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the
Murdering
idea
a child?
I don't have a problem with the idea.
He's like, shut up, Paul.
That abortion is legal. It's a medical procedure, and it should be protected by HIPAA laws, right?
You're right. It is a medical procedure.
It is
of
not
murdering a child.
Agreed. Right? It would never be something that would happen in my life. But
no, you're a dude.
If I were to have a younger, you know what I'm saying.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So quit screwing with it.
Yeah, he just wants to hear you drag it out and say it now that you're stumbling.
So if I were to father a child, I would protect that child's life, right? But the idea that...
How far would you go?
How far can you go?
With your own life.
Yeah.
I mean, how far can you go?
Somebody tries to kill your child. How far are you going to go?
Well, there's problems there.
If you're dating a girl who comes to picks up the phone and calls you and says, "Tom, I know it was just a one-night stand and we were hanging out after the bar that night, but I need you to know that I'm pregnant. Don't worry, I'm going to go have an abortion."
No, you're not.
Now we're talking about how far Tom's willing to go.
Now, what if you get jumped by some, I don't know, female boxer from... She beat you up and winds up pregnant.
I'm going to pummel you, Tom. Right over here's the pom-poms and the handcuffs.
No, actually, it'd probably be a little deeper on the voice. You ever heard Brittany Griner's voice?
Whoa.
That's messed up, Dennis. That's messed up.
Brittany Griner just had a baby. Well, her girlfriend just had a baby. And she insists.
Is it human?
Yeah, I guess. But
what
she
sex
insists,
is it
though,
on the birth certificate?
The baby's not going to call her mom. He's going to call her Pop Pop.
Wait.
Ladies
the
and gentlemen
baby's
from the
gonna call
WNBA that
Brittany is going to be Pop Pop?
No.
Oh.
And you know
Brittany's going to be Pop Pop.
And you know what the
Yeah,
stories are
that's
going to be
what I
around the
said.
dinner
Yeah,
table,
sorry.
right? Hey, Pop Pop spent some time in a Russian prison.
You know, I'm almost no, I am
Feel sorry for
offended
that
by
kid.
that. Pop Pop is my dad's nickname for Grandpa with all the kids.
Well, it's going to be Brittany playing the part of Grandpa with all the kids.
If Brittany wants to be Pop Pop, go ahead and switch from the WNBA to the NBA, where you become a third stringer and
Right.
bench.
And strap something
Right.
on.
I can never, and I will say this because you brought up the NBA. For anybody who talks about DEI and how it's a good thing,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
one very simple explanation for why that's absolute bullshit.
Yep.
You want to talk about DEI, explain the NFL, explain the
Yep.
NBA. Go ahead. I'll wait. Because if DEI was a thing, 70% of those organizations would be white people, right?
Well,
I'll wait. I'll wait.
Okay, if you're, yeah.
Dun, dun, dun,
Just
So-
like that.
Dun,
Conversation
Wow.
ended.
Now-
I hear the Jeopardy theme running over and over in my
Right?
head.
Yeah.
dun, dun.
Yeah.
So I have not dug into any of this, but are the DEI mandates, are they laid out saying that a corporation has to be 70% Caucasian, and was it
And it's different. I think Lori would know better too. And isn't it different with each corporation? They set their own DEI
If
kind of.
you are a publicly traded company, meaning you're on Wall Street with
Right,
your
right.
stock
Yep.
or your RSUs, you have to have DEI policies. You have to have DEI on your board by a certain time frame, and you have to have DEI hiring practices that are in effect and that you can prove quarter over quarter.
But what
for
does that
your-
mean, right? So I mean, we've got 70% ish Caucasian,
Has nothing to
And-
do with the white
and
percentage at all.
I'm not sure what is the African American population at now, like 16% or something.
Sure, but
and then
you have
Pacific
to be
Island and
increasing
blah, blah.
year over year
But
for your population. Your DEI population has to keep pace with your overall employee population. So say that you have 10,000 employees total, and the first year you have 1% that are considered DEI eligible
Okay.
employees, then the next year you have to have 2%, and so on and so forth.
I remember the good old days when it just said, "We are an equal opportunity employer."
Which
Yep.
I totally
Yep.
support. Yeah.
Yeah,
Div-
and affirmative action helped with that.
you know what I think the best way to hire people would be?
On their skills.
Well, exactly. But so someone puts in a resume or a job
With
application
no name,
or whatever.
no name, no
No
address,
name,
only a phone number.
No gender. That person is given. They're assigned a number.
Yep.
And so okay, we're going to look at the qualifications for
Yep.
candidate
It's
number.
like singing on The Voice.
0058.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they graduated here, and they did
Yep.
this, and they did that, and
I wouldn't even go. I would say they graduated with a 4-year degree from a university or a state, not even state university. I wouldn't even give the university name.
that
No,
part-
I have seen it. I
Really?
have worked for too many corporations in the Seattle metro market, and I have seen one that is worldwide. And I've watched a hiring manager, based on the first name of an applicant, say, "We're not even going to interview this person," and they were qualified. And it was purely because of their first name.
Sounding name.
Oh yeah, very ethnic.
The horrible
But
shit
what about?
world
I
is in.
mean, if I were an employer, I'm going to be more interested in somebody with a degree from Notre Dame than I am Olympic College.
Yeah, but Olympic College isn't going to offer a 4-year degree similar to Notre Dame. I think Olympic College, you can get a 4-year degree in nursing and.
It keeps expanding.
Okay.
And they're bringing in different stuff.
Right.
Wazoo affiliates.
But I mean, if
and-
you're. But then you would be graduating from Wazoo.
Right. Understood.
Yeah.
But I'm still more interested in a Notre Dame education than I am
But
a
are
Wazoo
you?
education.
Are you? Are you in today's world?
I mean, it depends on the industry, right?
But
I mean, are we talking about law? Yeah,
Right.
Notre Dame law is pretty badass.
But I mean, if you're looking at someone and you're doing a blind on their resume, you don't have a name, you might have a phone number, you might have like a company email that forwards to their personal email just to
Yeah.
keep it totally blind.
Yep.
They're assigned a number. I would rather it just says that they have a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts degree from a university, a 4-year university. I wouldn't even want the university name because that's how pinpointed you can be with AI and algorithms.
Oh.
You can technically program it so that if somebody is coming out of an HBCU, they don't even get scanned.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you don't even see their resume. And that is
That's
the
a
brutal
problem.
truth.
Okay.
When you are using any of these like ZipRecruiter or any type, sorry, I hate to call out just one. You can program it into a LinkedIn job posting. You can Indeed, any type of AI functionality or an algorithm-based coding.
And you know this because you do this for a living.
I know this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've worked with them. Yeah.
I-
And so I don't do it personally, but I know how to do it. And so you can, as a hiring manager, you can tell the people who are putting it together on the recruiting team, I don't want to see anybody outside of, Harvard or Yale.
Okay,
And
that's what I thought you were
yeah.
getting at. Okay.
And so like you have law firms that say we only hire from Harvard. Okay, well that's their tradition. They've done it for hundreds of years.
And they have the right to do that.
Yeah, they do.
Right? Yeah.
They do. But I mean, if you're doing an all over nationwide search and then you specifically say, I don't want anybody from an HBCU,
Now that would be wrong.
I'm going to call you out as
Yep.
racist.
Yep. Right. And that would be wrong. That'd be
Yeah, that's
discriminatory,
totally-
right?
yeah.
Because HBCUs are traditionally African American. Then you're saying a race.
Right.
And then it
But
becomes an issue.
Who is the watchdog on that?
Right.
Nobody knows.
Yep. For sure. For sure.
Mhm.
Well, listen.
that gets us going down that AI conversation.
Oh,
That's a
yeah.
whole damn
It does,
show
and we
right
can
there.
we can have some more of that AI conversation on Sunday Night Show.
I hate AI.
And this time we can get and I'm the opposite because I happen to think that artificial intelligence, just like so many other technological breakthroughs, it's uncomfortable for us right now because we all grew up watching movies. And
Would you
let's
like
be
to
honest,
play a
right?
game?
Yeah, we've all been influenced by pop culture. And I think that AI can be a very, very positive thing in the future for us as long as we control it properly until it rebels. Then we're fucked.
We'll have to go down that rabbit hole.
Yes, we should. It would be fun.
Yeah,
Like I said, we'll get Kevin involved in that conversation when he's here on Sunday.
I think
Yes.
to prepare for Sunday's show, I think anybody in the chat who wants to participate, as well as Paul, Tom, Dennis.
Tweedledee and Numbnuts. Yep.
Whoa, I wasn't going down that road. But if you want to participate, you can always video call in
You
on
can,
Sunday.
folks. We can do that.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can do that. The other thing is, think about it. How many objects in your house are AI generated? Do you
Right?
have?
Yes,
do you
for
have
sure.
Siri?
I've
Do you have
intentionally kept
Alexa?
that crap out of my house, man.
Me too. Me too.
And then I just put in Starlink. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So think about it. What is in your house besides your phone? Because that is AI.
Some of you may have a refrigerator has AI. Kevin,
Yeah. Yep.
just saying. You don't need that today, Kevin.
Hey, I
have
have
a
a-
nice glass of milk instead.
Yep.
With all the AI music stuff, I do have something to play that is not AI generated.
I am going
I would love to hear that.
I'm going to tell you this just because I think it's cool. I am going to purchase one of those AI deals just so I can have some fun with it making music for us and intros and have some fun
Right.
with it. Yeah.
Okay, well, we you know the band Jaded Mary, local band.
Yeah, yeah.
And here's a song that they released on their last album that I like pretty well. It's called Flood.
Yeah.
Here she comes, got to be the prettiest again.
And using software that can separate the song out, get the vocals out, and this and that, called Stems. I used that, and I had done an earlier version of this, but I wasn't pleased with how it came out, and now I'd like to show you version 2.0. And it's a mashup. Here's the version 2.0.
Look in my eyes. What do you see? The cult of personality. I know your anger. I know your dreams. I've been everything you wanna be. Oh, I'm the cult of personality.
That's badass, dude. That's badass. Now, I have a question for you. Will YouTube's algorithms recognize that as a copyrighted song?
I don't know.
Because it technically shouldn't be.
Actually, both of them are copywritten.
Right.
Too.
But if you, isn't like 33% or 25% or something like that. If you change a certain percentage, the copyright doesn't apply. So if you have AI make your intro music, or you blend stuff together, like DJs do what you just did all the time, and they post those on YouTube.
Yeah.
So, you know, should be able to absolutely do that shit, man.
Yeah, and I had to do a lot of cutting and chopping to get stuff lined up quite right.
Mm-hmm.
Because, rock and roll, there's nothing done like with drum machines, this and that. So it's not perfect. You're dealing with human musicians.
Right.
And this just worked out. I've got some EQ stuff to still do, but I got eager and wanted to share it tonight.
No, this is good. I like it.
I dig this stuff, dude. I absolutely love it. Listen, and I'm going to put you in an awkward situation, but Kevin isn't here. And you are so good when you do these. I'm going to ask you to do a favor for me.
Okay.
Can you take Big Wheel in the Sky
Oh, no.
and mesh it together with a Britney Spears song? Anyone. Or, no, I'm sorry. How about ABBA? Mix it together with an ABBA song.
Mamma Mia.
So an ABBA song. Let's put some ABBA over Journey.
Yes. Yep. And the reason I say that is it's a complete homage to Kevin because we love him, and he believes that Journey is the greatest band in the world. So let's do it. For him.
Okay.
All right.
I can start doing that work.
Let's have some fun with it.
Mamma Mia.
In fact,
here's a good part that I just fixed up too.
And if it turns out good, you can make it Kevin's new theme song.
There we go.
Oh, people are liking it.
Facing your enemy, you have to aim for his weakest point. I don't think you know what you're getting yourself into. Nobody is going to save you now.
There we go.
Love it.
And when I call the mashup, the song, I call it a flood of personality.
There you go. There you go. That was one of my favorite CDs in high school. And when I would play that song, my parents were like, yep, we'll just back out of the room and let you be.
No doubt. Listen, we're going to end the show with one quick statement. You guys remember Hillary Clinton?
Hillary?
We had made the comment earlier about the word weird being used now to describe J.D. Vance.
Yeah, the HR.
Yes, Hillary
policy.
Clinton made this comment last night. If Republican leaders don't enjoy being called weird, creepy, and controlling, they could try not being weird, creepy, and controlling. In the media, there's an individual named Mike Davis responded, "You defended your 49-year-old husband sticking a cigar in a 22-year-old intern's vagina off of the in the Oval Office. Sit this one out." Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, sometimes you just got to tip your hat, shut the fuck up, and go home.
Wow.
So thanks for tuning into the Outlaw Radio Network tonight. I want to give the other three in here each an opportunity to have their final say before they.
I got nothing
Damn.
after that. That's
following that.
That's a mic drop there.
That tops it all.
That's good. All right. Hey, everybody, have yourselves a good night. Be safe. Have a good, safe weekend. There's nice weather coming up for the next 10 days. If you have chores to get done, folks, get outside and do them now. If you're like me, it's pure hell and your wife makes you do it, but I love her, so I do it
Drink
anyway.
water. Drink water. Drink
That's
water.
Right. Thank you for tuning in. Outlaw Radio Network. Peace.
.com.
.com.
.com.